Say hi, Twitch. I'm starting to stream now. Okay, so you guys over here, come join us on Twitch. I've got it pulled up. Twitch, we talk about politics. We talk about what's going on in the news, and then we dissect it from a left-wing perspective. So come join us over there. It's Madeline Pendleton there as well, but with no underscore. And to everybody else who's left, I will do 2 to 5 minutes of bullying and yelling to convince you to come over here so you feel like it's exciting. So somebody say something I can bully you about. Give me some rage bait. Let's make it happen. You never notice I have tattoos? Oh, I know, I'm covered. I have a lot of tattoos. Sydney, Australia overnight? No, we'll look at it though. We've talked about Cuba. We did Cuba yesterday. Hi, everybody. You actually really love Israel. That's great. Yeah, we fucking hate Israel. And you know what's crazier is how many people are siding with Israel over and over and over again on other foreign policy shit, and they don't fucking understand. That's what's crazy to me. All these people with the fucking anti-Israeli, like Palestinian flag in their bios, right? They're like, I love Palestine. And then they're also like, I also love the fascist Israel-backed neo-Nazi government of Ukraine. And I'm like, girl, what? Are you stupid? That's Israel 2.0, babes. Like, what are you doing? Or they're like, I hate Israel. I love Palestine. I also hate North Korea. I'm like, how are you going to hate fucking Palestine's #1 most consistent ally on the planet? Are you stupid? Wild. So these people are ding dong. They're fucking ding dong. And then they want to fight with you about it. And they're like, oh, read a book, babe. And I'm like, I'm fucking, wow. The audacity. That's what's shocking to me. They know they don't know anything about these topics. They know that. I know that. They know that. Do they just assume I don't either and I'm just saying random words? I don't fucking understand. What's wrong with Ukraine? In 2013, 2014, we backed a fascist coup in Ukraine. Their government got overtaken by fascists and neo-Nazis. And they built statues honoring Nazis all over Ukraine, put Nazis on fucking postage stamps, made socialism and left-wing politics illegal. And then some members of the military who were literal Nazis, paid for by Israeli billionaires, went through areas of Ukraine and started trying to fucking ethnically cleanse them. And that's why Crimea and Donbass asked to be let into Russia, because they wanted protection from being ethnically cleansed by neo-Nazis in the new fascist government of Ukraine. And you got people out here fucking Ukrainian flag in their bio. Like, girl, what are you doing? Those are Nazis. Yes, thank you. Smart people are on Twitch. They literally had 3 Nazis on a stage. Clap for them calling a huge part of history. Yeah, fucking Senator John McCain standing next to some fucking Nazis on a stage. Just like, love it. Love it. Leaked phone calls from fucking Victoria Nuland going, well, obviously we can't have the Nazis be in charge. That's just a bad look. Let's have this other guy be in charge, but he should talk to the Nazis every day about what's up. It's fucking wild. And then these people want to tell you that you don't know what's going on with politics. Oh, I gotta do my beverages. I'm gonna do my beverages. I'm gonna fork screensaver you guys. I'll be right back. I'm gonna keep yelling at them on the phone though. If you have news stories you want to talk about, get ready. Get them prepared. Hi, I'm back. Sorry, screensaver was still up. I was yelling though. You guys would be really proud of me. I'm really yelling at them here on TikTok. Really. Oh, what should we do? Ooh, we got some stuff. Okay, yay, love it. Thank you, Virgo. Okay, good. Oh, I know it's working because my live just got restricted for bullying on TikTok. So that's how you know I'm doing a good job. You guys come over to Twitch because to potato, you need to learn something. Short form content, bad for you. Long form content, good for you. We talk in detail, we read articles, we read theory sometimes, we get into history, you understand the cause and the effect. Get over there. I'm restricted for bullying every day. I'm always bullying people on this. And today, what we are talking about, it looks like it's Trump versus Europe. So we're going to learn a lot about Donald Trump versus Europe. That's a good one, you guys. Good job. So get the fuck over here. Yeah. It's Madeline Pendleton with no underscore. Come on. We're talking about Donald Trump versus Europe and what the fuck he's doing. Come on, come on, come on. Assad, you're probably not going to like my opinions about Assad. So come on. Stop being ding dong. Yes. TikTok schmick schmuck. If you don't get a Twitch smitch in the next 10 seconds, I'm holding you personally accountable for the destruction of the United States. In a bad way. Not a good destruction, like a bad way. That was their username. It was TikTok schmick schmuck. I liked it. It was cute. All right. Okay, I'm done. I'm almost done. This is your last chance to come join us. Ding dongs. Ding dongs. Are you really going to let this know more about geopolitics than you? That's embarrassing. You're gonna let 40-year-old non-binary Barbie, alternative Barbie, know more than you about politics? Humiliating. You should be smarter than this. So come join us on Twitch and I'll teach you how to be at least as smart as me. And then from there, take the ball and run with it, babe. Right? Get over there. Get over there. Okay, I'm hanging up now. Okay, bye. It's Madeline Pendleton, no underscore. The last thing I saw was, are you genuinely in psychosis? So that's how you know I rage baited well. Okay, wait, can you guys hear me? I'm trying to get this microphone set up this time. Hi, everybody. It's really fucking hot in here. Okay, I just switched to the microphone. Does it sound better than it did? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Bad audio? Worse? It's worse? Hold on. What about now? Better? Worse? Better now? Better? Okay. It was just too far away from me. I got it. Okay. Fuck. I forgot the water. I have to go get the fucking water. Okay. So I saw the Trump Europe thing. So maybe you guys be prepared when I come back if you have specific articles you were talking about to turn down the gain. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. This one. After Greenland, it's the microaggressions. Cool. Okay, I gotta go get water. I'll be right back, okay? 2 seconds. The audio's still on. Okay, hi, I'm back. All right, I've got water. So, how many people do we have here? Was that successful? Am I screaming? Did it work? Did it get people here? Bether's not bad, you're right. Okay, yay. Cool. If they don't think I'm in psychosis, we're not getting views. So, yeah, I was really angry on TikTok today. Just towards the end. I was pretty chill, and then I really upped it for dramatic effect. We got hype chest. Chill girl emote. Oh my god, she's so cute. Okay, let's learn some shit. So, welcome to the Twitch stream. For everybody new, I call this Double Down on the News. What we do is we take a look at stories that are in the news, we read through them from mainstream news articles, and we talk about any biases we see in the reporting there, and we give historical analysis where relevant, and we try to assess them through a left-wing political perspective, a Marxist political perspective. So when I finish these live streams, I export the videos to YouTube, and I went and checked the YouTube comments for like the first time ever, and it was a lot of really angry libertarian men, and they were like, from a left-wing perspective, because I said this on another video, that's all the media. And I regret to inform you, no, it is not. All of the media is a liberal perspective, certainly, but definitely not a left-wing perspective. So that's really what we point out here. I do get a lot of hydrates and get regularly waterboarded, yes. Did I miss some? No, we didn't. We're okay. I'm caught up. Old sound is better? Oh. Hold on. Is this better, sound-wise? They're wrong? Oh my god, okay, I'll use the mic. Okay. God, I'm too gullible. You guys know this. Okay, I just believe anything, so I believe anything you guys tell me. I trust my peer group implicitly. It's a problem. Okay, so today it looks like the poll has already ended for what we're going to talk about, and what we're going to talk about is Donald Trump versus Europe. Now, this is obviously a big deal. As we all know, imperialism has never been a problem for Europe. Europe loves imperialism. Europe loves colonization. Europe loves the idea that if you're white, you can pretty much show up anywhere in the world and be like, nice resources you have, we're going to take them and enslave your population. So when the United States was doing this all around the globe, it wasn't really a problem for Europe, not since, the Revolutionary War or whatever ended. So what changed? Why is Donald Trump potentially beefing with Europe now? Well, because Donald Trump threatened to do it to one of theirs, right? So we all know that Donald Trump, the administration bombed Venezuela and kidnapped the leader of the country, then threatened Mexico and Cuba and Colombia, and Europe said nothing. Where was the indignation from Europe then? Nobody cared. But then Donald Trump was like, and I'm taking Greenland, and we can do it the easy way or the hard way. And then all of Europe started freaking out. So we have some updates on this that somebody sent to the chat from today that we're going to take a look at. So the news story here is, now we're in a power struggle. Europe's resentment grows over Trump's newest provocations. Why is this person in the chat really fast? Oh, Coolery USA, hi. Based on how you're wording this, I don't think you have enough political background or historical background to actually be able to talk about this issue. So I'm going to recommend that you learn about this issue first, because this is kind of like me demanding that you answer why the sky is green. There's no way you can answer that because the sky's not green, right? So if you come in here and you're like, I demand to know about the constant mutilation of human rights in DPRK, I don't know what you're talking about, so I can't answer that. So you need to go do some baseline educational background on this. That's not ChatGPT and reading 6 headlines and looking at a YouTuber for like 2 hours. You need more than that. And then we can talk about it if you really want. So if you want, I can give you some homework. I can put you on a timeout. I can give you homework. It can be a lecture to watch. And then if you want to come back at the end of this, if we have time, we can answer your questions about the DPRK. If you want to do that, just let me know. Otherwise, you're probably just going to get banned, basically, because we don't have time for that. But if you actually want to learn, we will definitely teach you and talk to you about it. Homework? And I would start with a lecture from a professor of Korean history at Rutgers. Is it Coolery USA? There are proven cases of egregious acts and you deny them. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you, you're going to give me homework and I'm going to give you homework before we get into our day, okay? Give me a link to one of these proven cases of egregious acts that you want to talk about really fast. You give me a link to one, and I'm going to give you a link to something, okay? And then we'll do a little trade-off. Does that sound good? Does that sound fair? We'll each do one. You show me what you're looking at, and I'll show you a really baseline entry to understand a little bit more context about what you're discussing here. They are going to link you on Me Park, aren't they? So show me yours first, and then I'll talk to you about it, and then I'll give you a link. And then you can be on a timeout while you look at it, and we can get into our daily schedule. That's what I was going to give them. First time chat, Angel Domino. I was going to give them the Susie Kim lecture because it's pretty fast. So we can do that, and then we can stick around and talk about it if you want. But if you're just here because you want to yell at somebody about something you don't know anything about, I, first of all, don't feel like that's a very productive or fruitful use of your time. At least yell about things you know about. I know, they hate learning the facts. Okay, so are you there? I'm just going to pull up. I'm just going to assume you do want to, in good faith. Yay! And then we're gonna continue on with our little trajectory, but I don't want to ignore you because I actually do enjoy talking about this because I think it's a great example of how propagandized the West is. So let's get you to it. I think that the video is a great one to start with here, but there's also an article. You guys, we could give an Alan McLeod article, or we could give a Susie Kim lecture on video. Susie Kim lecture. I think Susie Kim lecture. Do you think they just left? They might have just left. In case they didn't, though, I'll put it in here. Okay. Let's see. I'm looking for it. Did somebody link it? Yeah, they might not want to read. You think the video? I think the video will be too. That's kind of what I think. Here we go. Here's the virtual lecture. 20 URL. Let's make it for them. Is this the one? Yeah, Shike? Do you think they left? I think they left here too. I think they left too, but maybe they're just embarrassed and quiet. Yeah, this is the one. I'm going to temporarily pin this. I'm so sorry, Virgo. This is the homework. This is the homework assignment for that person. So if you're still here, this is your homework assignment. Watch this. It's 26 minutes. Watch it on double speed. I don't know what to tell you. And then you can come back and talk to us afterwards if you want. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Let's get into it. Sorry for that distraction, everybody. All right. Now, as we can see, this development going on with Europe and the United States is a little funny. I'm not going to pretend it's not a little funny. You can tell it genuinely never occurred to Europe that we would do this to them. They were totally fine with us doing this to the entire world, our allies even, while we did it. And yeah, they never thought that they could be next, which is silly. Comrade Ash, oh my God, hi. Welcome, Ash. Hi. So this is kind of hilarious. I feel like I can't have sympathy for Europe, right? Because they have a track record of doing this, a history of doing this. And again, they were totally fine with us kidnapping the leader of another country. And then you could tell they were like, yeah, leopards eat my face. Exactly, microplastics. Like, now the leopards are going to eat their faces. And they're like, right. So a couple weeks ago, we watched a brief clip from a Jeffrey Sachs, not interview, I guess, a talk he was giving to EU Parliament, where he was warning the EU that something like this would actually happen, right? He was telling them, like, hey, you guys here in the EU, you need to stop aligning yourself with the United States. The United States is not trustworthy. I have worked for the U.S. government. They will turn on you in a second. And he actually said it is dangerous to be an enemy of the United States, but not as dangerous as it is to be an ally of the United States, because you will not see it coming and they will throw you under the bus. And now look what's happened. Everything Jeffrey Sachs said would happen is happening, and the United States has set its sights on Europe. And this is true, yes. Also worth mentioning, Edgar X. Bang, Greenland is a modern-day Danish colony, not a free country. So it is literally possessions owned by Denmark. And when we look at the majority of the population in Greenland is indigenous. So this is Manifest Destiny 2.0. I think it was like, 60,000 residents, and most of them are Inuit, indigenous Inuit. So very, very, very fascinating. Okay, I'm going to unpin this because I think we lost our troll. And we can repin the actual article. Sorry, everybody. You know, the troll, I like talking to them about it. Maybe we need like a Q&A section at the beginning. Like 20-minute Q&A when they come in, and then we stick around or something like that. Yeah, that's something to consider. No, they're back. Oh, they're back. Oh, okay. Okay. Did we put them on timeout? Here's an article I found interesting. Oh, okay. All right. So great. So I already know what this is, actually. UN OHCHR report. And what you need to know is that the UN helped destroy Korea. You're probably not familiar with this, but the UN helped divide the Korean Peninsula in half and basically created the conditions that allowed the United States to commit genocide in the South and then bomb 80% of the North when they try to fight us off. So the OHCHR reports, what you need to know about these is that they reference themselves. They're extremely self-referential. And when you look at it, you'll be able to tell. So what we look at when we look at these things is these. So these are all referencing other UN reports, okay? And all of them link to other UN reports. Do you see how I just clicked that and it took you to another UN report? They all link back to one single UN report from 2014, okay? So that single UN report, that's the basis for all of this. I'm going to show you that really fast. And you can look at this yourself. You can click through all of them and you can look yourself. I'll show you. Is this one. This is the 2014 report. And I bet if we search in here, it'll even tell you 2014 somewhere. Yes, they tell you this, that they are updating the document from 2014 in here. So you can see that they continue to do this. Now, one of the things I want you to look at in this 2025 report, though, before we even get to the 2024 report, just so you know, come in here and you can look. KCNA Watch, this is actually a project of something called NK News. And NK News is... has up here, you can see this in the corner, NK News right here, right? So if I come over to this is my resource doc, I have everybody read to get started, and this will give you a really good jump start. NK News, parent company, NK Consulting, this is who funds them. The Department of Defense, the Department of Treasury, the Department of State, and the Department of Navy, and the Smithsonian, which is in conjunction with the U.S. government. Now, this is major because NK News will tell you that their revenue comes from crowdfunding, but they don't have to count grants, government grants as revenue. So they're sneaky about it, right? So that's who runs KCNA Watch. Now, KCNA Watch is supposed to be just reports from the North Korean government, but they have been caught basically filtering these, lying about these, and cutting some of them out. So it's not actually that unbiased. And that's important for you to know. But that's just the beginning of this. I bet if we look through these, let's see if they only are linking. I just looked at this the other day, actually. Somebody sent it to me. So as you can see, these are all, they're referencing their own reports, their own reports, their own reports. So all of these go back to the original report. See, 2014. 2014 is the original report here, right? We're going to take a look at that original report over here. That's this one. This is the one, 2014. And you can look up this report number and you'll see it all over everything, okay? Now, here's what I want you to see about, this is the original report. Why do we look at this? Because this is the only one that has actual sources in it. The other one, you can see they just reference themselves. It was the UN referencing the UN, referencing the UN, referencing the UN. This is the original. So it actually references things that aren't the UN. So let's take a look at what they are referencing. They are referencing NK News directly. That thing I just showed you over here with all of this funding. They are referencing NK News 5 times. That's in their sources, okay? What else are they referencing? They are referencing something called Daily NK 12 times. 12 times. What's Daily NK? Daily NK is funded, it's a grantee, Daily NK, grantee of something called the National Endowment for Democracy. What's the National Endowment for Democracy? It is funded through U.S. Congress. Do you know why? Because the CIA set this NGO up to do overtly what the CIA used to do covertly years before. Okay, and that's not a conspiracy theory. You can see this in this Washington Post article that Alan Weinstein, we're looking for the quote. Where is it? Here we go. What did Alan Weinstein, the founder, say? A lot of what we do today was done covertly 25 years ago by the CIA. Okay, that org, National Endowment for Democracy, is who funds this group, the Daily NK, that is cited on this report, what did we say? 12 times. That was pretty egregious. That's a lot. Why are they citing the CIA 12 times? That's fucking weird, right? Isn't that a little weird? I think that's a little weird. Okay, then let's take a look at what else they cite here. They cite 38 North once? Why would they cite 38 North once? What's up with 38 North? Well, 38 North is a project of something called the Stimson Center. There it is, 38 North, the Stimson Center. That's a project of theirs. Okay. And the Stimson Center, their funding's real bad. This is the Stimson Center's funding. Let's look at page 2. Start here. U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Defense, all the way down. Defense Department, Energy Department. That's who holds the power to our nukes, by the way. Energy Department, State Department, and U.S. intelligence agencies. That's the CIA as well. So that's what we got going on there. And what else do they have in this thing? Do they have any Radio Free Asia? They might not. I don't think they have Radio Free Asia in this one. Oh, fuck, they do? Jesus, this is worse than I remember. They also have Radio Free Asia 3 times cited in this UN report that you provided here. And Radio Free Asia was created by Congress in the 1950s, or by the CIA, rather, in the 1950s, and then switched over to being congressionally funded. It was literally created by the CIA to spread misinformation about communism in Asia. Today, it is funded 100% by Congress. Here's congressional funding records. You can find them on house.gov. Right? It'll pull up. Come on, load. There it is, Radio Free Asia, right there. There's the congressional funding records. And it is currently part of something called the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which is an official website of the U.S. government. Here's how you know. Official website of the U.S. government. Menu. What are their entities? RFA. Oh, it got taken down because they got the funding. That's right. Is the Radio Free Asia? Oh, no, maybe it's just a bad link. I think their website's still actually up. Well, I think it's just a bad link. There you go, Radio Free Asia. That's it. They had a bad link on their site, but that's it. So, oh yeah, there's a Radio Free Asia. Yep. This is it. And it is responsible for all the goofy, weird shit you see about Asia, communists in Asia. So that report that you submitted, okay, and here's the question I'm going to ask you. If you're still in the chat, okay? If you're still here, if you haven't run away yet. Do you think the UN is not able to check the funding records for their sources when they compile UN records and reports? Do you think that? And if you're not here, I'm asking the general crowd just so everybody remembers this. Obviously, they know. The UN knows that all of the sources they are using are funded by the US government. So if they know, why are they doing it? They're not in the viewer list. They left. Okay, cool. I mean, so great. But just for anybody later, then they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. Why? Because they want to misrepresent information about North Korea to you. That's it. That's it for everybody. To normalize consent. Exactly. So yeah, that's what's going on there. We got the North Korea thing out of the way. I'm so sorry. You're supposed to dismiss reports if they use the majority of government sources without reading it. What's the best practice? So it depends. So actually, Parenti wrote about how to source. And what Parenti said is something that I've always recommended too. If you find a source where somebody is reporting about something and it goes against their best interests, that's a source maybe you should pay a little bit more attention to. Because somebody is reporting on this out of their best interest, something that harms them they are reporting on. There might be some truth to that. There's some integrity to that. But if somebody is using sources that only back up, or a source and they are using information that only backs up their funders, that only supports the people giving them money, then yeah, that's a conflict of interest, right? And so that shouldn't be trusted. Yeah, that's what's up. So we lost our original troll. They probably didn't like what they saw. That's fine. But yeah, these UN OHCHR reports are not valid. And that's why I put this thing in my link tree for everybody. You can learn how to do this on your own. You can learn all about this on your own. You can go in order. You can learn the reality about things. And there's even a whole section of it that's, where is it? Where'd it go? Oh, here. Where it's untrustworthy sources. And it gives you the links to all of these and how you can see their funding and everything going on with them. And then I even added the section of Danny's sources, Danny North Korea's sources, to show you that they are all NK News, Radio Free Asia, right? Funded by Congress, those kinds of things in there. So you guys can watch those. Yeah, so you guys can take a look at this if you want to in my link tree. Okay, let's get back on it now. Let's get back on the topic at hand. Do you guys like when we answer the questions like that in the middle of the mix, or does it derail things too much? What do you guys think? Do you like it? Okay. I just want to make sure it's not throwing off the vibe too much. It is important. It is very ADHD. We bounce around a little bit as long as we get back on track. Yes. Okay. So back on this. We've got Europe freaking out that the leopards are eating their faces. Oh, you just got here? Okay, hi, welcome. we talk about propaganda and how the government's evil. It's a good time. And now we've got Donald Trump over here getting in fights with Europe over Greenland. And it appears that we have, on January 17th in 2026, this Copenhagen, Denmark protest. And again, Denmark's not exactly innocent here. They're basically the colonial overlords of Greenland, which is a predominantly indigenous Inuit island. But they're real mad that someone else might want to take their colony from them. And they've got the signs, Yankee go home, folk for Magti. This probably means something in Danish, I'm guessing, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to read through this article on Politico. We're going to see if there's any historical or political kind of influence that's being missed from this story, and we're going to see if we can drum up anything else interesting based on what we've read. Ironic that the colonizers of Greenland are protesting colonization. Yes. Do you know what this reminds me of? So I have this like thing where I'm like, oh no, I'm the harbinger of gentrification. And the reason is that I have a lower middle class income. I know people don't like that, but you know, that's according to HUD data. So I can afford a little bit, but not a lot. So whenever I move somewhere, I'm always like, oh no, I'm the harbinger of gentrification. People are going to see me in a place and they're going to be like, that spot's cool and up and coming now. And then rich people are going to show up and totally destroy it. So when I moved into my neighborhood, I live in Atwater Village in Los Angeles. I was like, it's already been gentrified. What's it going to do? Re-gentrify? It's not going to gentrify twice. Like, the damage has already been done. The damage was done like in the fucking 90s. Like, it's horrible, but like it's not going to get worse, right? So I moved in and I shit you not, now they are doing gentrification 2.0. Atwater Village is literally re-gentrifying as we speak. So I remain the harbinger of gentrification. It's horrible. I can't escape it. But I feel like that's what's happening with colonization on Greenland. We're recolonizing. We're re-gentrifying Greenland. We're recolonizing Greenland. And everybody's like, oh, how could this happen? It's very, very interesting. So yeah, gentrification has cycles. I'm learning that now. I didn't realize that, and I have the Marxist approach to gentrification is that it's not about your individual culpability. It's systemic. It's about housing development. It's about business infrastructure. And that the Marxist solution is, to decommodify housing, right? And these issues don't exist. These issues don't exist in China, right? This is a byproduct of capitalism, and we understand that systemically. But you still don't feel great about it, being the person, You still don't feel great about it. Oh, it doesn't feel good. So, never mind, unfollowed because I'm in true gentrification. I mean, fair. I don't do it on purpose. Just like go places and people show up. I don't know how to explain it. So, capitalism is obviously the problem there, but yeah, my house is like 100 years old. Yeah, it's very, very old. So this is what's happening there, though. They're mad that somebody is colonizing their colony. Mal was right about landlords. Yes, you are correct. Working poor. First time chat. Welcome. President Donald Trump's hasty climb down after weeks of threats about seizing Greenland from Denmark's control has not done much to improve the fraying transatlantic relationship. You guys remember, Donald Trump at first was like, we're fucking taking Greenland. We could do this the easy way or the hard way. And I'm just like picturing like in his head, it's an action movie where we like storm in with a bunch of tanks and we forcefully occupy Greenland. And then all of Europe was like, whoa, bro, you can't just do that to Greenland. And then he was like, okay, maybe we won't just like take it by force, but we're going to do some real strong negotiating. And apparently that's what they're talking about. Like it has not calmed down yet. In fact, the bad feelings across Europe have only deepened as the president and other administration officials have, in ways large and small, continued to poke politicians and entire populations in the proverbial eye. The provocations come as European officials prepare for the Munich Security Conference this weekend, where key topics will include the transatlantic relationship and whether the continent can stand on its own without Washington's help. Literally the Empire Stormtroopers, yes. Also, one of the things they're talking about is rather than doing like a traditional colonial occupation, basically having Denmark become independent and then brokering a bunch of deals with the United States where it can basically be a neo-colony of the United States through business, so more like South Korea vibes. That's like the current, I think, idea that they are floating around. A high-level European official similarly described a change in mindset that is taking place. We're forced to adopt a violent approach in our relationship with the U.S. administration, the official told Politico, explaining that Europeans are realizing that Americans increasingly seem to view Europe less like allies than rivals. I don't even think we view them like rivals. I think we view them like ants. Like, I don't think any American takes Europe seriously at all. I think we view them as like weird little ants. You're our vacation destination. We love Italian food, go meatball. Like, we're not thinking about Europe. And this is really, I think, what Europe does not understand. They have failed to understand that they are politically irrelevant to the United States. and psychologically irrelevant to the United States. We do not think about Europe unless we have enough money to go on vacation once in our life. And then we're like, wow, it's beautiful here. And then we go home and forget about them again. That is literally it. They are a lapdogs, our vacation destination, the same way the Bahamas is our vacation destination. We don't respect these people. Very, very interesting. Oh, going to order breakfast for your princess. Oh, ghost in this hall. That's so sweet. So they go on. It has completely changed from the times when there was cooperation between us. Now we're in a power struggle. Amid the row over Greenland last month, Trump casually dismissed the sacrifice of NATO troops who fought beside U.S. forces in Afghanistan, leaving NATO allies disgusted. Fuck NATO, okay? Like, diminish NATO all you want, but also fuck the U.S. military. Fuck all of these people. Absolutely wild. Subsequently, the U.S. Embassy in Denmark removed 44 small Danish flags that commemorated the Danes who died in Afghanistan, placed in response to Trump's comments, fueling more anti-American demonstrations in Copenhagen. This is so petty. This is so petty. News that American federal immigration agents would be on the ground providing security during Winter Olympics in Milan sparked widespread fury throughout Italy. And boos serenaded Vice President J.D. Vance as he attended the opening ceremonies and events over the weekend. The message, the lack of respect for Europe that's been sent, said a second high-level European official who, like others interviewed for this report, was granted anonymity to speak candidly about a sensitive diplomatic situation. But they can't just seem to help themselves from sending it again and again. Yeah, they do not respect. Donald Trump does not respect you. Like, I mean, you're right. Whoever said since World War II, I mean, yeah. The United States also really views ourselves as having saved the day in World War II, a sentiment that is not shared by the rest of the world. Well, actually originally wasn't shared by the rest of the world. I don't know if you guys have seen this, actually. I'm going to pull this up because it is interesting. I'm going to look this up to see if I can find it. There's this one chart in particular that showcases the change in perspective over time. Ugh, I can't find it. It's going to be so annoying to try to seek here. Okay, I can't find it right now. But basically, it's this poll. You can probably look for it. Maybe somebody can find it on their own. That was of French people. And it asked them immediately after World War II ended, who won World War II for the Allied forces? And everybody said the USSR. And then they asked them, like, in the 2000s, like, who won World War II? And everybody said the United States. So the United States has rebranded itself for having also won World War II. And in that role, obviously, clearly diminished the role of the USSR. But rendered Europe basically as victims that were saved by the West, by the true West, the United States, right? And that, I think, really did cement psychologically the way that the United States has viewed Europe since then. So if you guys look that up, that study about France, I think it's very interesting. You can probably find it, fascinating. So, last week, the U.S. ambassador to Poland turned publicly hostile towards a Polish lawmaker who would not sign a petition backing Trump's nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize, drawing a rebuke from Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Allies should respect each other, not lecture each other, Tusk wrote in a post on X directed at the U.S. ambassador Tom Rose. Inside the White House, aides have largely moved on from the president's Greenland fixation that took up so much oxygen in January. Asked about the supposed framework agreement Trump claimed to have secured in Davos to boost America's military presence in Greenland, a senior White House official said only that they hadn't heard any updates on it. And there is scant evidence of concern among Europeans' hurt feelings or spiking anti-American sentiment across Western Europe. Protests in Denmark, the official said, were a non-issue. It's not even on our minds anymore. They're trying to act unbothered. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I didn't see it. Thank you. Sorry. I always forget. Still getting used to streaming. But for Europe, Trump's disrespect towards Greenland and Denmark and threats to violate the sovereignty of a NATO ally amounted to near rupture of the transatlantic relationship. Let me see if this is a study. In France. Oh, yeah, this is 19... Yes, this is it. So here, look. So this is the question. basically, who contributed the most to winning World War II is the question in 1945. And here you can see that in 1945, right after it happened, 57% of people said that it was the USSR. And then by 2015, it was down to 23%. I mean, 2004 was even worse. It was 20%. Everybody was like, go America. Very, very interesting. And so this is how we've successfully shifted the narrative over time. And that's why the narrative is not really useful for us, right? Same question asked in the UK. Thank you for sharing this, Gianni 10. And this is all from the same time period, though. This is just okay. The United States says the United States won it. Okay. The Soviet Union said Germany. Wait, what? Europeans and Americans tend to think the U.S. did the most to defeat Nazi Germany, apart from Britons who think the U.K. did. Okay. So Soviet Union thought Germany did? To the defeat of Germany? That's interesting. I don't understand that, but that's okay. The United Kingdom says they did. And then, yeah, that's very, very fascinating. Other axis. Oh, the other axis of Germany. Yeah, duh. That makes sense. They just said Germany, but yeah. No, that makes sense. They just didn't label it. Yup. I read it upside down. 28% of Germans. Oh, wait, let me look again. When did I read upside down? Oh, the axis is different. Oh, I see. I did read it upside down. Yes. This chart's confusing to me. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking, I'm like, what? Okay, April 25th. Yes. Okay, I see. So Britain said it was the UK. France said it was the United States. Germany said it was the United States. Italy says it was the United States. Spain says it was the United States. And the United States says it was the United States. That's it. That's why I was like, when was this? The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. What's going on? What side of Germany? Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Sorry, I totally did read this backwards. Thank you. But that's from 2025. Right? If this is to be trusted, April 2025. So back in the day, though, everyone was like, yeah, it's fucking USSR, man. And we can see multiple articles written about this. Never forgot the USSR saved us from Nazi Germany. So ever since then, though, I do think psychologically in the mind of the United States, it has been imprinted that Europe, they are victims and they need saving from the United States. So if they need saving, that means that they are inherently submissive to us and they are not very strong. And the United States is way stronger than them. So it doesn't really fucking matter what we want from them. We just haven't wanted anything, basically. So for Europe, Trump's disrespect towards Greenland and Denmark and threats to violate the sovereignty of a NATO ally amounted to a near rupture of the transatlantic relationship. The additional nicks and cuts from these diplomatic dust-ups over the last weeks have hardened the resolve to permanently rethink decades of close alignment with Washington. Europeans are going through the fifth stage of grief, said one French diplomat, who asserted that acceptance has finally set in. We now understand the U.S. administration is going to be difficult for the foreseeable future. The president's oft-repeated declarations that I love Europe, as he said that, I've never heard him say that, have rung hollow, coming from an administration that has made its disdain for the continent so explicit. And speeches from both Trump and Vance, an official national security strategy, and by imposing tough new policies on trade and defense. In terms of the latest indignities, Trump's belittling of the sacrifices made by NATO troops in Afghanistan angered a different crowd from those upset about deploying ICE in Italy during the Olympics. And this was according to a third high-level European official. Yeah, he just says things. My favorite thing that I've learned that Donald Trump has said, which fact check me because I've never seen him say it, but people have told me he says this, is that in life, every person is only allowed a certain number of steps. So that's why he takes a golf cart everywhere, because he doesn't want to waste his steps unless it's important. I don't know if he's actually said this, but I was told he said this, and I cannot stop thinking about it. So, this guy's just out here saying shit, is what we know. He's just saying things. He's an entertainer. Well, so was Reagan. And look where that got us, right? So European leaders are more and more accepting that de-risking from the United States is unavoidable. There is, however, more shared agony than agreement among European leaders about how to de-risk, to diversify and deepen economic security and diplomatic relations with other countries, to reduce their vulnerability to future unilateral American action from a global hegemon that they've relied on so heavily for 80 years. The upcoming Munich Security Conference, the annual confab of transatlantic diplomatic and defense leaders, will provide an initial glimpse at where Europe stands. And remember, we watched the speech, right, with Jeffrey Sachs, and what he was really really telling them is you need to come together as the EU. You need a shared defense pact as the EU. You need to share weapons as the EU. You need to be negotiating as the EU. The only way you are strong is not as individual countries, but as the EU. And I really hope that they keep this in mind. You know what I mean? I really hope that that is the direction they take if they want to achieve true multipolarity. I mean, I really hope they all have a Marxist-Leninist revolution. But short of that, I think that that's the only card they have to play, really, at this point. Violet Blossom says the EU will never unite, trust me. They won't. Yeah. That is, I think, the only thing they could do, though. Right? In the movie Life is Beautiful, they show American soldiers liberating a concentration camp. Yeah, that's how I always grew up hearing about it as American, too. And then the Americans came, and everything was fine. But in reality, it was the USSR that showed up. Now, what's interesting, actually, is that what we were just talking about, the USSR showing up and liberating people from concentration camps during the Holocaust, ties in also with these conversations about NATO. Because you guys know where it's going to take me. It's going to take me to Ukraine and Russia, right? So, first of all, obviously, Ukraine experienced, as we've talked about, the highest rates of casualties from the Holocaust, and they were liberated from the Holocaust by the USSR. And we know that they built statues honoring the people who liberated them. They had incredibly high rates of approval for the USSR, and then even later after the USSR for Russia, until the United States started intervening with propaganda. Now, what's very, very interesting is that the United States has obviously started systematically, I call it trying to steal a country, since 2010. We dabbled in 2004, but in 2010 is when we aggressively really hit the ground. And by 2013, 2014, we were backing a coup in Ukraine. Now, the new leadership that took over after the coup, one of the things that we were kind of dangling over their heads was NATO membership. We were like, come join NATO, you can be in NATO, NATO. And Ukraine really wanted it. They really wanted it because this new government was opposed to Russian influence. And, at the expense of large swaths of Ukraine, which we famously know were subjected to ethnic cleansing and begged to be let into Russia for their own protection. The thing that gets me, though, that I've always thought is that there is no world in which the United States was ever going to let Ukraine into NATO. Now, this, again, is not a fact. We don't know this. This is just my personal analysis, is that I do not think there was ever a world where the United States thought that Ukraine would be in NATO. And for me, what I have guessed from the jump on this is that the United States was basically using Ukraine as a wedge point to provoke conflict between Ukraine and Russia so that Ukraine would lose problematic areas of its territory that were pro-Russian, that would be absorbed by Russia instead, leaving only behind a smaller Ukraine that was more open and susceptible to doing business with the United States for our profit. That was always my guess. And looking at Donald Trump's reactions to NATO, being like, I don't really give a fuck about NATO. Why would I care about NATO? If I want it, I'm going to take it. It kind of makes me think that is more correct. Like, I'm more convinced that is the case. That Donald Trump has never respected NATO, has never really cared if Ukraine's in NATO or not, has just known that it would be a convenient wedge point to use to drive conflict between Russia and Ukraine for the United States' benefit. And looking at this, it seems pretty obvious, yeah, Donald Trump does not care about NATO. He's out here saying, who fucking cares about the NATO soldiers who lost their lives in Afghanistan? I don't give a fuck about that. He's out here saying, I don't care if you are in NATO. I'm going to take your colony. I'm going to colonize your colony. What now, right? So I think that, 3 hydrates, hold on. Mm. 10-11. Again, I got to stretch in there too. But yeah, the Zionist-backed Zelensky as well, right? Yeah, all these elements at play here. But yeah, that's the first thing I thought of when I read this is, yeah, he doesn't give a fuck about NATO. So why were we expected to believe that Ukraine joining NATO was so important to him at one point? That we would provoke this kind of conflict between Ukraine and Russia. It's not. It has never been important to him. So continuing here, we see heads of state are quickly shifting gears, hoping to lessen their reliance on the U.S. in order to limit their vulnerability against the actions of an unpredictable and occasionally hostile president. Threatened with higher tariffs, European leaders are looking to do more business with countries in South America and China. If the EU ends up becoming more closely aligned with China out of all of this, this is going to be a very interesting development that I had not anticipated. They're rethinking agreements with American defense contractors and openly discussing the viability of NATO given America's suddenly questionable commitment to Europe's defense. There's irreparable harm done, said Ian Bremmer, the president of the Eurasia Group, a global risk assessment firm who is frequently in contact with the heads of state on multiple continents. It doesn't mean that the U.S. can no longer be allies of these countries on the back of what happens in 2028, but the relationships will be different. The global order will be different. The U.S. will have lost a very significant amount of capital, of long-term capital, with a lot of countries. Anti-American sentiment among Europeans has spiked in recent weeks. According to YouGov surveys tracking Europeans' opinions of the U.S., large majorities of people in Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Great Britain now have an unfavorable view of the U.S. More than 60% of the public in all 6 countries now see the U.S. in a negative light. It took this long? It took this? What? That is wild. I mean, I knew they always hated us on vacation, but I kind of assumed they hated our politics, too. Oh, you know what that was? I'm preparing to do a Sims stream with you, and I made a screen for it. Wait, hold on. Since I accidentally clicked it, this is going to be the Sims survival screen when I play in survival mode with all the rules here. I'm plotting it. Okay, back to our regular screen. That was a little leak. That was a little Easter egg. So we'll do that at some point. I've really been setting it up. I'm like, how do we do this? It'll be fun. For those of you who don't know, I play a psychotic version of The Sims. And it's very, very funny, where you can only survive with things you dumpster dive. So, also when I was listening to myself, I noticed I say so too much. So I have to try to knock that off in this. More than 60% of the public in all 6 countries now see the U.S. in a negative light, including 72% of Germans and 84% of Danes, a marked uptick in just the last 3 months. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has seen her approval ratings improve over her defiant response to Trump's Greenland threats. Comrade Trump is making China great again. It just is the meme where it's like China does nothing, wins. Like over and over again. But a number of European leaders, even as they take steps to reduce their dependence on the U.S., still intend to maintain solid relationships with Trump and hope to work with the administration on a host of issues, including the ongoing efforts to end the war in Ukraine or at least help Ukrainians defend themselves. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who's been among the European leaders more critical of Trump, is planning a trip to Washington next month. There are members of the press asking heads of state and senior officials every day why they're not being tougher on Trump, said a 4th European official. That speaks to the swell of opposition in the U.S., and there is a political upside for politicians who can speak to it. But the reality is also that we still need a relationship with the U.S., at least in the short term. So I think you'll see most heads of state are trying to keep working with the White House. Oh, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. First time chat, 21 Jaco, hi. That described, among others, the strategy of Finland's President Alex Stubb, who acknowledged in a speech to Parliament last week that the U.S. is changing in its approach to longtime allies and its broader foreign policy, while still labeling America as an important ally. It is cucked behavior. It is fucked and cucked. Oh, embarrassing. Oh my God, this person's back. Coolery USA. Was that them? From today? From earlier? Was that them? Oh, you're back. Yeah. What did they say? Too gay. They didn't have anything to say about their North Korea shit being wrong, so they ended on I'm too gay. Have fun being a stupid lesbian. Oh. What a loser. Do you ever get secondhand embarrassment for somebody through the internet? It's so awkward. All these women who don't like me are lesbians. Oh, weren't you disproving multiple times by other content creators like Aspen and Danny? No, I wasn't. And this is your problem. You don't actually research things. You use content creators to tell you what's going on in the world. Do you want to see something really fast before you go? I do have a formal education, actually. Nobody's been proving me wrong, first of all. Aspen is from the Department of Homeland Security. She went to a college affiliated with the Department of Homeland Security. She had her first internship working in global security, international affairs with the Department of Homeland Security. That's a Fed. It's a literal Fed. Okay, that's a literal fucking Fed. Danny, meanwhile, I'm going to show you this. This is the document I tried to tell you to look at that I made available for all of you. Do you want to see Danny's sources? Do you want to see them? anything in red, this is Danny's resource document right here that I'm showing you. This is what Danny tells you to look at. You can check it yourself. You can screenshot this. You can compare it to Danny's. This is Danny's. Everything in red is funded by the U.S. government. Everything in red is funded by the U.S. government. Okay? The only 3 sources on Danny's entire list that are trustworthy is a Christian church doing border work. So I don't know, if you love Jesus and trust the Christian church, have fun with that one. This is actually this is a real book. This is something that actually did happen and is real. This is the Invitation Only Zone, the true story of North Korea's abduction project. They were abducting Japanese people to teach them Japanese after Japan's imperial control over them. That's real. That did happen. And then a Stanford link that just tells you a comprehensive history of North Korea's nuclear program. That's it. Those are the only things that are legitimate sources on that. So this is the problem. You are going on TikTok and you are getting your geopolitical worldview from short form content that has rotted your fucking brain. And you don't have critical thinking skills. The literacy crisis is you, babe. You are not able to comprehend a single thought. You are not able to follow cause and effect. You are not able to legitimately source any information. And you're ding dong. Like, that's what's going on. You are out in the world just believing whatever fucking video popped up on your TikTok screen and taking that as truth. And I'm not going to lie to you. It should be easy to see that those people are not trustworthy. One, for God's sake, has the fucking eyes and lips filter on their page. You know nothing about that person. That is an anonymous source who is telling you to trust the U.S. government for things about our political enemies. If that was not the biggest fucking red flag on the planet to you, like, dear God, you need a keeper to manage your credit cards because you're about to get credit card scammed. Like, that should have been right away. Like, ding, 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 red flags are going off. Like, the lights are going off. This is not trustworthy. The other one literally does not even string together coherent thoughts and then puts a dancing Cartman meme on top of short form content videos, and you decided that was a trustworthy person to ask about geopolitics. That's humiliating. That's fucking embarrassing. That is everything wrong with the U.S. literacy crisis in action. No media literacy, no actual literacy skills. You are getting your worldview from TikTok content creators. You cannot waterboard that information out of me. That should be the most fucking embarrassing thing you have ever seen in your life. Like, if I went on the internet and admitted that I was learning about politics from content creators on TikTok in short form content videos that lasted 3 minutes or less, I would be too embarrassed to show my face. That's like move to another town, change your fucking name level of delusion. That is embarrassing. You should be humiliated by that. Now, what I'm going to tell you to do is this document is available in my link tree for you to learn. And here's the thing about me. I don't tell you to learn from me. I tell you to learn from experts in this field, okay? You need to read a fucking book. You need to read a fucking book yesterday, all right? You get away from ChatGPT. Get away from fucking short-form content. Your brain is cooked. You need to invest in long-form content fucking immediately. You need to get this thing working again, okay? Because it's all ding-dong and rocks up there. You're eating crayons, okay? So you need to fucking read a book immediately. And lucky for you, there are 6 books on this list that you can read. All right, 6 books that this is anchored around. All right, and this is free. All of this information I put up here for free for you. And you go in order and you learn about this fucking situation. You learn because we don't have time. We don't have time for you to be out here with the dumbest fucking political takes on the planet while the entire planet is getting burnt to pieces. We don't have time for you to get your opinions about the Korean Peninsula from Genocide Apology of Barbie, who fucking worked with the Department of Homeland Security, or the eyes and lips filter on TikTok, okay? We don't fucking have time for that. So here are some sources you can use. This is a great article, U.S. Policy in Korea, 1945 to 1948, a neo-colonial model takes shape. Mark J. Scher from the Bulletin of Concerned Asian Scholars. That's a great place for you to start. All of this goes in order, okay? These are some good sources. This is from the Hampton, Institute. This is a great left wing. I'm assuming you're not a weird MAGA freak, okay? This is a left wing think tank based on Fred Hampton of the Black Panther Party. So if you want a left wing political opinion, this is what the Black Panthers, their basically think tank thinks about it. And the Black Panthers were allies of North Korea for a reason, okay? As was Palestine. North Korea and Palestine are allies. We also have this great article on JSTOR. You don't even have to have a college account. You can just log in here. I can log in here anytime I want. You can read 100 articles for free right there on JSTOR. You can learn about this fucking issue. Okay? You can do this. Here's a great book written by Guisa Guan, who's actually a research fellow at the Tamla Cultural Institute, about what we did when we committed genocide in South Korea after we took over Korea. Okay, so this is a great book you can read about that. She's an excellent source. Then we have, this is a website actually you can look at that the people of Jeju Island put together so you can learn more about the genocide we committed in South Korea, okay? And look, they put this all together for you so you can learn about what happened. So you have the background to be able to understand this fucking issue. We have another academic article here. This is from ResearchGate, right? You can download the full text PDF for free. This is the 2024 Martial Law Declaration and Necropolitical Living Under South Korean Sub-Imperialism. That tells you the current nature of the United States and how we are engaging with South Korea as a neo-colony of the United States today and what sub-imperialism looks like there. And we also have some declassified CIA documents where you can learn more about their government structure. We have this great book that I've actually done a book club on that you can follow along with. They accidentally uploaded the entire text of it here. You can copy and paste this into a notes app on your phone, and you can read this book for free. This is a great book. This is written by a professor of Korean history at Rutgers University, Everyday Life in the North Korean Revolution, 1945 to 1950. These are the sources I'm telling you to learn from, okay? So, this is where people should be learning from. He's already dead. He's already dead. I killed him. I'm sorry. Brain dead. Hi, I'm back. Sorry. This is why I can't debate people, though. Do you guys see how quickly that happened? And I wasn't even done. This is why I don't debate people. I get mean. It's Everyday Life in the North Korean Revolution by Susie Kim. So, oops, sorry, everybody. I'll show you guys the other stuff on the document now. So this is the book, Everyday Life in the North Korean Revolution by Susie Kim. We also talk about what we did to Korea. So if you guys are interested, you can learn about how we murdered 20 to 25% of their entire population. Here's multiple articles that talk about that. I know that's something Danny and Aspen tried to claim it was only 10%. Weird thing to get hung up on. Not useful. Not useful. Yeah. And then Blowback Season 3, I put on there. The Hidden History of the Korean War by I.F. Stone, who is an award-winning investigative journalist. And this should be a PDF to the book. I think I found one on there. I have the book as well in tangible form, and I recommend it. It's worth owning if you can find it. Selling the Korean War by Stephen Casey. Stephen Casey also was the professor of international history at the London School of Economics. And he talks about the Korean War. And the Korean War, it's like you can't talk about North Korea without talking about the Korean War. Anybody who is Aspen Israel, because we found her DHS college records, anybody who's trying to talk to you about North Korea without talking about the Korean War or trying to separate the two, well, why? No, we don't have to talk about the Korean War to talk about why North Korea is the way it is today. That's a lie. That's people who lived through the Korean War are still alive today in North Korea. That's like saying we don't have to talk about, chattel slavery to discuss black rights issues in the United States today. These things are very intrinsically linked. That's how bizarre it is to try to separate them. So anybody who tries to tell you that the Korean War is irrelevant to what's going on in the Korean Peninsula today, that's politically illiterate at best, or intentionally disingenuous at worst, right? This is also a pretty easy to read article. The Korean War and U.S. total destruction began 70 years ago. This is from a human rights activist from 2020. And then these are the more pop sources in this area. The defector industrial complex and propaganda. Like, we actually have some just like pop bullshit sources. And this is what I mean, where if even a source that does not have a vested interest in representing this issue is doing something against their own interests, you can trust it. So Al Jazeera is reporting on U.S. Navy SEALs killing North Koreans, and this story just broke in 2025. These are articles wondering if South Korea is ready to be in control of itself because they are still a neo-colony of us and their entire military operates under us. Right? This is a story about, you guys probably remember this, when South Korea tried to declare martial law. They declared martial law, and the president had to be ousted because it was super, super weird. He, it turns out, had been provoking North Korea to try to do an attack on South Korea, so he'd have an excuse to declare martial law as well. So there's a lot of sources on here. This article is really, really good. This is by Alan McLeod, who has a PhD in sociology and focuses on geopolitics and propaganda, and this is about the paid defector complex and has a lot of sources, so you can learn more about the paid defector complex. Talks about Yeonmi Park in there, talks about the CIA, talks about NAD. Very, very good article. There is the virtual lecture by Professor Susie Kim in here. There's also stories about people getting caught lying. Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang is in there, talking about the defector complex. There's even fucking New York Times articles talking about this. And of course, the New York Times is still going to be like, well, of course this place is evil and bad, but everybody keeps getting caught lying. We don't know why. Right? So those are the kinds of sources you have to understand the bias and why. There's a Diplomat article, The Strange Tale of Yeonmi Park. Talks about all the times Yeonmi Park has been proven unreliable. Story about Shin Dong-hyuk, right, who wrote Camp 14, how he had to retract parts of his story. There's a whole story about this as a complex. Fame for North Korean defectors brings money and suspicion because they're not telling the truth. And then there's additionally that the South Korean government pays up to $860,000 for military secrets about the North, which is an incentive for people to leave the North to go to the South, especially if they're higher up in the government. Additionally, there's about the censorship in the South, and here in South Korea, praising North Korea is illegal. That is true. It is illegal to do there. And you can see South Korean man gets 14 months in jail for praising the North in a poem. He was 68 years old. That just happened in 2023. We also have this old archived from an older time, 2005 article about the types of internet censorship that South Korea set up to make sure pro-North Korea content doesn't get there. So people in South Korea are just as propagandized as we are. And then it tells you everything we just looked at earlier about untrustworthy sources in here. And then we have some info about what it's really like. We talk about their foreign policy. We talk about their work with other countries. We talk about their government structure, etc. And we have more book recommendations in here as well from a guy named Bruce Cummings, who's a professor of Korean history and former chair of the history department at the University of Chicago. I think he's kind of a weird asshole, but I always tell people that should be your centrist. If you're a skeptic, read Bruce Cummings. That's the skeptic's approach to North Korea, and it is still more reasonable and sensible than any of the bullshit you see people talking about on the internet. So that's where I would always start with that. Very, very interesting. Anyway, sorry about that. I'm so embarrassed for people when they're like, oh, but I saw content creators prove you wrong. No, you didn't. And it's embarrassing. And then I get really upset. Sorry. Okay. Back on what we're talking about. Sorry, everybody. Sorry I yelled at the ding dong. Ugh. It is fucking embarrassing now. And I think people should be shamed. I think you should be shamed. If that's how you're learning about the world, because this shit affects people's lives. This affects people's lives. Did you guys see in the Epstein files? Epstein said that twice that Donald Trump was open to regime change in North Korea. It wasn't quite hydrating. It was coffee. I don't know. I just think it's sad. It kills people. These fucking people kill people, and they don't even realize it. It's the same thing as the man on the internet nicknaming himself the Butcher of Pyongyang to avoid taking accountability for unfairly naming the leader of a socialist country a dictator and manufacturing consent for us to fucking do regime change there, which we know because of the Epstein files that Donald Trump has wanted to do. Right? It's wild. Okay. Sorry. Again, sorry. That's a side of me that I don't like, and that was it mild. And when I do debate stuff, I get even worse. So, yeah, nobody say that I mentioned the Butcher of Pyongyang. Yeah, we'll hydrate more. No, it's a term for a person who's popular on TikTok who I said, hey, you shouldn't tell people that Kim Jong-un is a dictator because you're manufacturing consent for us backwards. You're reverse engineering consent for us committing genocide on the Korean Peninsula and bombing 80% of the infrastructure in the north and killing 20 to 25% of the whole population. Like, you can't do that. And then he was like, oh, so what am I, like the Butcher of Pyongyang? Or one of his fans did or something like that. And then they started deflecting from any accountability by being like, oh, sure, I'm the Butcher of Pyongyang. Sure, I personally murdered people. And I'm like, you fucking dumbasses. These are real people. It's just wild. Okay. All right, back on our shit. Not on ding-dong TikTokers. It's fucking so dumb. That's my default mode is mean and lecturing all the time. Screaming and lecturing. And I put a lot of work into not coming off that way because I need to have friends. Today we're talking about Europe versus the United States epic showdown. Europe versus Trump. Yes. So yeah, that's why I don't debate people. But I was captain of my debate team in high school and I was good at it. I was a Lincoln Douglas debater and I was nationally ranked. Okay, sorry.
All right. Okay. You don't think it was bad? Thank you, first time chat. Okay. I'm very embarrassed of that side of myself, as you can tell. I don't like being that person. I work very hard to try to be patient and kind. So when that side of me comes out, I'm like, oh no, I'm embarrassed. Yeah. Okay. He banned him from 900,000 seconds. Kami Ben Shapiro came out. Yeah, the chat saw Kami Ben Shapiro for the first time. Talk fast, be mean, hit him with facts. Ben Shapiro never hit anybody with facts. Ben Shapiro hit people with Bible verses. Okay. So, we're talking here about Finland's President Alex Stubb acknowledging in a speech to Parliament last week that the U.S. is changing, blah, 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 blah. We talked about this. Europe is still going to have to work with the United States, even though it's obvious that the United States is like, we don't fucking care about you. Like, we'll totally just, like, kill you if you want. Like, if we feel like it, you live and die by our whim, Europe. How do you feel about that? And Europe's like, no. No, this will not stand. But I think Europe also knows they live and die by our whim. I think they know that. You know? So I think that that's what's causing the conflict. I think that Europe is mad. They feel disrespected, but they're also realizing they don't have leverage. They don't have a leg to stand on here. Right? And I think that's what's creating the challenge. That's the conflict right now for Europe. Guardian, maybe later. Never paying them. So looking at some of the articles, back to the said before, opposition to U.S. has hardened in Western Europe after Greenland threat, polls find. Large majorities in 6 nations express antipathy to Trump's U.S. and support European self-assertion. Dump Trump. Western Europeans prize Europe's autonomy and values over transatlantic ties and will not give them up to placate Donald Trump, according to a poll suggesting opinions of the U.S. have plunged to their lowest since YouGov began tracking them a decade ago. And this is February 6th. This is 4 days ago. The U.S. president's attempted Greenland grab has succeeded in turning Europeans solidly against his country, the pollster's latest survey found. Also, isn't this funny? Because do you remember when Donald Trump ran for the first time? And he was like, why do we get all these immigrants from shithole countries? I want immigrants from Europe. Do you remember this? And it was just like weird racism. And it's like, well, number one, they weren't shithole countries before the United States showed up and destroyed everything. And like, number two, I'm sorry, compared to Europe, the United States is a shithole country. Like, it's ugly looking. Like, have you been to Europe? Have you been to the United States? I don't know. In Europe, they have high-speed trains and the buildings are at least pretty. If I was going to live in some weird Western white nation, why wouldn't I choose high-speed train and pretty plus affordable rent? Like, come on. McDonald's on every corner and like, flying J's on the side of the freeways and exactly inspiring and beautiful for people to want to come here. So, yeah, Europe is pretty clean. The United States, no infrastructure, no care. I mean, it's just disgusting. So, there's a very important poll. What's the name? They, them, Shapiro. Shapiro. Them Safico. I do love, though, that person was like, whatever, you're just gay. It was so funny. Oh, I loved it. Famously, gay people know nothing about geopolitics. Too gay to know about the world. Sorry, guys. You hate the glorification of Europe that some liberals do. At the end of the day, they're still capitalist and imperialist. Yes, exactly. That too. Like, Europe is doing the exact same things the United States is doing. They just haven't been as effective at it. But the thing is that Donald Trump wants to attract other people from wealthy white capitalist countries to the United States because he cares about prestige, right? And to him, I think Europe is prestigious in some way, in a way that South America, Central America is not. These places that have been aggressively destabilized by the United States, and therefore we're facing a lot of immigration from people coming here seeking a better life. I wonder if my partner's home. They worked an overnight shift at the airport, and Fork's doing a special kind of bark. Can you hear it? She sounds too excited. More white. Exactly. Yeah. To him, he thinks it's more prestigious, but they're just white people countries. They're just white people countries that haven't been totally destroyed by the United States. Right? No, it's Fork. She's so mad. I think my partner is ever. Okay, just a second. I'm going to put up the Fork screensaver. I'll be right back.
Look who I have. Fork appearance. Yeah, my partner came home from work. She was very, very excited. Yay! Hi. Hello. I know. Yes, I love you too. Chairman Fork makes an appearance. Hi. Who's beautiful? He's the most beautiful chairman that ever lived. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? You want to go over there? Okay. Okay, she wants to leave us. Yay! Good job, Fork.
Okay. So back on this. Basically, we're looking at the polls of what's going on here with Europeans and how they feel about the United States. I do feel like, part of me does feel like Donald Trump got slighted because he seems so emotional. Like he got slighted by Europe not wanting to come to the United States by not being able to attract European immigrants, like white immigrants, and then was just like, fine, I'm taking Europe or something like that. Very, very interesting. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, everybody's right. He clearly wanted white people he considered illustrious to immigrate to the United States. And it's like, well, no. The only people coming to the United States are probably people whose countries have been aggressively destabilized by the United States. And I know people like this, whose parents were literally like, whoa, my country got fucked up by the United States. Where can I go that will be safe from the United States? The United States, I guess. And then they come here, right? He wants those whiteys. He wants those white prime immigrants in our borders. Totally. It's very, very weird. A Belgian Viking dude told you USA has too many guns for him to want to visit. Wow. And I think this is like the ultimate humiliation of the United States. I think we are humiliated culturally by Europe. I think that Americans understand that Europe does not respect us culturally. So the most we can do is not respect them politically or in terms of any real power, right? And I think that is the trade-off. That Americans are forever embarrassed and humbled by Europe, and we don't like that. And it makes us mad. You're an immigrant from Ireland and you're still here because the United States is also fucked up Ireland. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's easier to dodge U.S. bullets than U.S. bombs. Yep, totally. It's very, very interesting. Trump literally said a few weeks ago he wants people from Denmark and Norway and not shithole countries like Somalia. Exactly. And it's like, well, they don't want to come here, babe. If they want to do neoliberal white person capitalism, I'm sorry, Europe looks nicer and they have trains. That's where they're going to do it. I don't know. Why would they come do it here? Everything's really fucking expensive and ugly and spread out. What's the allure? What's the benefit? You're doing the same thing as them, but shittier. And it doesn't... why would they do that? Yeah, and all these countries have problems because of the United States. So I don't know. Maybe this is what he's trying to do. Maybe he's like, if I destabilize Europe, they'll come here. Maybe I need to ruin Europe so they have no choice but to come here. Like all the people from South America, Central America, who have had their countries destroyed. And then that leaves them with no choice but to come here. It's wild. We locked up an Irish immigrant completely here legally. They're holding him because I guess Irish people are losing our white pass. Wow. He's making the Irish an ethnic minority again. A discriminated upon ethnic minority again. Wow. Yeah, he wants more white children here to subjugate and exploit. It's absolutely wild. Okay, so here is what our current polling is looking like in Europe. Spoiler alert, they hate us. Unfavorable is red. Favorable is blue. And then we have this is the early Trump, and then the Biden, and then the current Trump. So red is Trump, clear is Biden. I'm like really not enjoying these graphs today. Needs more children for his islands. So, favorable opinions, right, under the first Trump presidency and this Biden presidency with this little dip here. I don't know what's going on here in 2018. And then we see it just totally falls apart in Great Britain. Denmark could not be lower. Everybody in Denmark hates us. France, unfavorable. France always has kind of held it down, though. France has always been like, fuck you, right? Fuck you. No. Is that French? I feel like that's a French accent. No. I don't know any words in French. Croissant. Croissant. Right? Okay. Germany, unfavorable. And then they were chill. And then they're like, no, fuck you again. Italy didn't exist, actually, before 2018. I don't know if you guys know that. Italy's new. It did not exist before now. So, unfortunately, we only have this data to work with. Yeah, I have to do the Italian accent for the French, for everything. Spain, similarly, but yeah, very unpopular. Okay. So the polling also showed that in ever-increasing numbers, Europeans no longer see the U.S. as a friendly nation, with fewer respondents in all 6 countries saying they still consider it an ally. Those numbers represented a sharp fall since the last poll, in which YouGov asked the same question. Denmark, where unfavorable opinions of the U.S. increased the most, also recorded the greatest change in this area. In July 2023, 80% of Danes said that they saw the U.S. as a friend or an ally. Now, fewer than 26% do. The survey showed that Europeans tend to agree with the Trump administration's diagnosis that Europe has been too reliant on the U.S. for defense. Yes, they have. And allowed too much immigration? Oh, they're not going to let us in anymore. Is Europe going to stop letting Americans in? Oh, I didn't even think about that. All the expat communities in Europe? Look at the article title. Trump is making China, not America, great again. Okay, we gotta look at that one too. Okay. Oh my God. Expat immigrants. They're gonna kick us out of Europe. Fuck. Okay. That's why you're updating your kid's Brazilian passport to be like Brazil, not the United States. Stracito, they might have meant immigration on the whole because people in Europe do not like immigration at all for whatever reason. Okay, interesting. Hydrate. Thank you, Carmen, again. Maybe if Americans came the right and legal way and didn't overstay our travel visas for 6 years, which like we all do. Everybody does that, by the way, in Europe. That's what people do to move there. You just get a travel visa and just stay. That's the American way to immigrate somewhere. Hydrate. Europe is just hella racist. Yeah, that I believe. But it's like racist in a different way than the United States. So like I have black friends who live in Europe who are like, oh yeah, I feel totally fine being black. But oh, that's because I'm a black American. Like if I was like a black African, they would treat me like shit. So it's like based on like the accent too. And I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, wait. I'm plugging in the light. Trump's nickname in China translates to nation builder because of how he accidentally helps build up China. Wow. All of our lives are totally Onion articles. It's absolutely wild. Spain's prime minister is regularizing 500,000 immigrants. So that's cool. Yes. Oh, that is cool. Okay, cool. All right. So everybody fucking hates the United States. Donald Trump's like, why don't the Europeans like me? Also, I'm colonizing your colony. It's a big white-off. We have a white-off is what we have going on here. The girls are fighting. The girls being Western white nations. Or doing a white-off. White supremacy fist fight in the parking lot. This is like the equivalent of, yeah, like a Christmas Day fist fight with like your third cousin twice removed in a parking lot of a Sizzlers in like an American town. That's what's going on. All right. So I'm pulling up these things you guys are sending here. So Trump is making China, not America, great again. Global survey suggests. Okay. So I just want to say, I was out here writing for China. Nobody was writing for China. You know, just to say, we might have hope for North Korea yet, is the parallel I'm making. If I'm always early, if I'm the harbinger of gentrification, if I'm calling the China thing early in pop culture, maybe we're going to have an era of North Korea upon us in the next decade or so. It's possible. It's possible. This could be. I was the one that taught you China good in 2020. Yes. See, this is what I'm trying to do. See, but the problem is that North Korea is good, but they're not, like, China's, like, thriving, right? North Korea still struggles with the embargo and the sanctions and the blockade. So, you know, we got to give them a little more time to cook on it. You know, the North Korean century is upon us, but we got to give them a little more time to build, you know? Yeah. So a year after Donald Trump's return to the White House, this is from January 14th, so what, like 3 weeks ago? A global survey suggests most of the world believes his nation first, make America great again approach is instead helping to make China great again. The 21 country survey for the influential European Council on Foreign Relations think tank also found that under Trump, the U.S. is less feared by its traditional adversaries, while its allies, particularly in Europe, feel even more distant. Most Europeans no longer see the U.S. as a reliable ally. They're increasingly supportive of rearmament. They're building up their militaries. Russians now see the EU as more of an enemy than the US. Fork, what's wrong? No, you can't do that. You can't go. No, come here. Fork wants to go to bed because my partner just got home from a night shift. But when Fork's alone in bed with my partner, she takes up too much space. And so my partner can't sleep and they're exhausted. And now I have this dilemma where Fork is whining to go to bed with my partner and my partner will not be able to sleep with Fork in the bed. Chairman Fork is crying because she misses the USSR. That's so true. Fork, what do you think? Okay, I get it. Let me deal with the dog. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. She's free. We liberated Fork. We liberated Fork. Okay. So, will China have more or less global influence over the next decade? More is dark blue. It's looking like yes. From everybody. What's interesting here is it says that Ukrainians are looking more to Brussels than to Washington for support. Well, yeah, because we played them. We played them in the Ukraine-Russia war, very obviously. So this poll was nearly 26,000 respondents from 13 European countries, as well as the US, China, India, Russia, Turkey, Brazil, South Africa, and South Korea. And they found majorities in almost every territory surveyed expected China's global influence to grow over the next decade. What is China to your country? Dark blue is an ally. A necessary partner. So most people are saying a necessary partner, and dark red is an adversary. So 25% of India said that China's an adversary. That's interesting. 33% of Ukraine. That's interesting. Other polls have shown that the change in perceptions of the U.S. among EU citizens is marked. Obviously, we just talked about that. With the war in Ukraine set to enter its 5th year in February, respondents in Russia are now more likely to see Europe as an adversary than last year, and less likely to consider the U.S. as such than when they were 12 months ago. So 41% to 48%. That's because we've shifted, because we want to wrap up the war. And Russia wants to wrap up the war and Ukraine doesn't. So we're working more with Russia to try to wrap that up. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Now, let's get back into this NATO thing that was interesting. The disrespect of NATO at the hands of Trump. Trump leaves NATO allies dumbfounded and disgusted with remarks dismissing sacrifices in Afghanistan, also a war we should not have been in. European military veterans, families of the fallen, and politicians have voiced outrage after President Trump claimed that U.S. had never needed its NATO allies and that allied troops had stayed a little off the front lines during the 20-year war in Afghanistan. Absolute clown of a fucking nation. 20-year war in Afghanistan. For what? If you ask the average American, why were we at war in Afghanistan for 20 years? They're going to be like, was it really 20 years? And then they're going to think about it and be like, I honestly have no clue. Right? I did get the USB hub. Yeah, I did. I got dual USB hubs working as we speak. So, checkmate, liberals. How about that? Yeah, 20 years in Afghanistan, we couldn't even win. The USB hubs are dueling. This is absolutely humiliating for us to admit that we were at war in Afghanistan for 20 years, I think. The only time NATO has ever enacted Article 5 was after the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the United States, and the world rallied to support the U.S. Alistair Cairns, the UK government's Minister of the Armed Forces, and a veteran who served 5 tours in Afghanistan alongside American troops, said in a video posted Friday on social media. Also, so dystopian. We're getting our news from political leaders on videos posted on social media. No wonder these fucking idiots think they can learn about geopolitics from somebody using the eyes and lips filter on TikTok and genocide apologia Barbie. Absolutely wild. To be fair, Malrish, the U.S. are incredible at getting defeated, picking up their ball, going home, and declaring victory. That's kind of our thing, isn't it? Like, we're not actually good at war. We're good at bombing the shit out of places from a big plane. And we can't pick on people our own size because of this. It's not something we're good at. And if you look at what we did in Venezuela, we fight dirty. We fight dirty and disrespectful and bad because we cannot win a war on equal grounds. It's very, very, very sad. This is so funny. Forks yelling, the cat's meowing, my alarm's going off. All right. So this guy says, we shed blood, sweat, and tears together, and not everybody came home. These are bonds, I think, forged in fire, protecting the United States or shared interest, but actually protecting democracy over all capitalism. Protecting democracy, capitalism. The point is not to win, but to make the weapons companies money. Exactly. More than 2,200 American troops were killed in Afghanistan, according to the Pentagon. The Reuters news agency said 457 British military personnel, 150 Canadians, and 90 French troops died alongside them. Denmark lost 44 troops in Afghanistan, and per capita terms, about the same death rate as that of the United States. Wow, I didn't know that. So we have a picture here of some British soldiers who died defending the United States from Afghanistan, who did not even do 9/11. Worthless. All of these imperial wars are so fucking stupid and worthless. It's just crazy. And then it's just so angering when you know what we did to Afghanistan, what we did to the Middle East, what we did to these people during the war on terror. I mean, we killed millions of people. We displaced millions of people, rather. I think we killed like 1 million people and we displaced millions more. I mean, it's just absolutely barbaric numbers. Holocaust upon Holocaust, you know? And not to compare tragedy, but I mean, just that level of destruction and devastation, just horrific. Hydrating, yes. The U.S. does pick on weak and impoverished countries. That's totally what we do. You're so right, Unholy Ghost 666. NATO also in Kosovo. Yeah, not useful to anything happening in Kosovo. There are 2 great sayings worth remembering, Karn said in his video responding to Trump's remarks. Number 1, there's only one worse thing than working with allies, that is working without them. And when you do, always remember, never above, never below, always side by side. Yeah, if you're at war with a poor country for 20 years, you're actually just running a welfare program for oil, drug, and weapons manufacturers. Ghost in this hell. Well fucking sad. Yes, that is so true. Because what are we getting out of this? We're boosting, right, these American corporations. I'm doing my stretch because pain. Yeah. Yup. A spokesperson for UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Friday that Trump was wrong to diminish the role of NATO troops in Afghanistan. And later Friday, Starmer called the remarks insulting and frankly appalling. We expect an apology for the statement, Roman Polko, a retired Polish general and former Special Forces commander who served in Afghanistan and Iraq, told the Reuters news agency. Can you picture Donald Trump apologizing to anybody? Like, ever? For anything? I can picture him being like, I'm sorry. I upset them. I'm sorry I hurt their feelings. Oh, they got sad. But he's, like, not actually going to apologize for anything, like, ever. Like, what a crazy thing to ask. Like, what? He gives the best apologies. Mr. Trump has crossed a red line, he said. We paid with blood for this alliance. We truly sacrificed our own lives. Lucy Aldridge, the mother of the youngest British soldier killed in Afghanistan, told the BBC she was deeply disgusted by Trump's comments. Her son, William Aldridge, was only 18 years old when he was killed in 2009 bomb blast while trying to save fellow troops. And from what? Save them from what? Brown people who didn't want to hurt you to begin with? Save them from people whose country you invaded to advance an imperial capitalist agenda? Like, what the war in the military, the framing is always just so fucked. Because it's like, we were there. They weren't here. They weren't in England, right? You were there. Your kid was there. Child of the Reach car. I miss Obama. His only scandal was a tan suit. Chelsea Manning's torture. The extrajudicial murder of Abdulrahman al-Awlaki. Destroying Libya. Arming and enabling Saudi destruction of Yemen. Letting the bankers off scot-free. Mass deportation. The drone killers. The Espionage Act. Exactly. Like, going on always. Is it frozen? Yay, nay, frozen, yes, no? Okay, I'll keep going. So everybody's mad. Everybody's mad. Everybody's like, this is so disrespectful, blah, 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 blah. I mean, the whole fucking war, talking about disrespect, the whole fucking war never should have happened. But I mean, this is what we mean when we see like the girls are fighting. The white Western capitalist imperialist nations are fighting. They're like, oh my God, I killed just as many innocent brown people as you did. Why don't you recognize that? Ugh, that's so insulting to me and the number of innocent brown people I terrorized and killed there right alongside you. Yeah. And this is what happens when these powers fight. What do I think of all these American veterans and soldiers that are always crying and complaining? Here's what I think. First time chat. Interesting question. I think that to be a soldier is to be traumatized unless you were purely fucking psychotic. And I think a lot of people get traumatized. I have complicated feelings about the military because you guys know I've said it before. I fucking hate the military. Everything you see ICE doing at home, you need to remember the military, the U.S. military, is doing that to vulnerable people of color in other countries every single fucking day times a million. Right? Way worse. And we've been doing that for years and years and years and years. Our military is monstrous. They are disgusting human beings. And what we do is not okay. At the same time, there is something to be said for one needing to recruit from the ranks of the military. Lots of people become radicalized because they go through that experience when they're very young. They don't know much about the world and they come out and they're like, oh, that was fucked. And you will have people who are veterans who become your allies in the struggle against this machine because they've experienced it and they know firsthand how fucked and evil it is. And there's value in that. And that's good to have those people on our side. Right? I think that there are also people who come out of it who weren't prepared for what they were going to see. And they're frankly traumatized by it. They're fucked with over it, right? And it is very emotional for them and it is really disturbing. And the only way that we as a culture can try to placate them or make them think maybe it was all worthwhile and it was okay is to tell them they're heroes and what they did was really important. We know, it's the knitting cult lady. I've never seen her. We have to watch her. I have to watch her. Finally. I've been wondering about her. Hold on. We'll watch that in a sec. But we know they're not heroes. We know there was no reason they had to go through that, right? It was bullshit. But we have to pretend like there was a reason and they did something great for their sacrifice to keep the game going, right? To keep the lie alive. And so it creates this very deranged culture, where you have a bunch of traumatized people being told that what they did was good, actually. And when somebody's like, it wasn't that important, which is true. It probably wasn't that, it didn't fucking matter that much to anything, except for the people we murdered. These soldiers are like, what? Like, I went through hell. What do you mean that didn't fucking matter? And it's sad because it didn't fucking matter. You just went and murdered a bunch of innocent people in another country. Like, that didn't help anybody. That wasn't good. You didn't save anything. And I think that's really brain fuck for these people, right? Okay, can we watch a knitting cult lady video? I want to see. I've never seen her before, and people keep telling me about her, and I really want to watch. No? Please, I've never seen her. You don't think she's deconstructed her time in the military? She grew up in a religious cult and talks about it. Okay, I have to watch it. I have to watch it. Come on, I'm getting a little alerties. Okay.
Fun for me because people do tend to think this is a gotcha question, but I promise the person who wrote 2 books about the army thought about whether they're going to turn against their almighty leader. So people say to me quite often, so you say the army is a cult, but you think they're going to turn against their leader. So I'm Daniela, scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership, former captain in the United States Army, wrote this book where I don't tell you the army is a cult. I show you me growing up in the Children of God, religious sex cult, and then me being inside the United States Army. You can make all the conclusions yourself. In this book, The Culting of America, I walk you through the 10 pieces of being a cult. And every single point I make for a cult, I show you it again in the army, and I show you it again around us. And here's the thing. We've been knowing since the very beginning that a cult can be led by a person or an idea. The idea part just doesn't make it into the stereotype. The United States Army is a cult led by an idea. And that idea is the American Constitution. And they have made it very clear to Donald Trump during both administrations that he is not the leader. He's the top leader in the leadership structure, but the cult leader is the American Constitution. You can get signed copies of Uncultured attached here, or listen to me read it to you on Spotify Premium. It will really help you understand what I'm talking about with the Army, as well as what is going on in our country right now.
I'm sorry, the signed copies took me out. I was not fucking prepared for that. Okay, you know what I'm going to say about her? Is I think in the late 90s and early 2000s it was the Constitution, but not anymore. Like, what it means to be conservative American culture has shifted so much, and that's why the Heritage Foundation had the falling out with Donald Trump, the first Trump term. They were very, very reluctant to acknowledge that the nature of conservatism in the United States had shifted so much, and they fought back against Donald Trump. By Donald Trump's second term, Heritage Foundation dumped all their old leadership, brought on new leadership that was fully in on the Donald Trump brand, and the Republican Party in general kind of did the same. So I think that her views are just really outdated. I don't think she understands the extent that, like, Donald Trump is the ideology now. MAGA is the ideology. The alt-right is the mainstream right now. That is the ideology. So very, very interesting. The Children of God thing's absolutely wild. That's a very, very notorious cult. Yeah, she's talking about the military, but I think the military is inherently tied to conservatism. My partner and I actually were talking about this the other day. We were talking about what civil war would look like in the United States today, right? And what we were talking about, what I said is that it would have to be under a Democrat-led president and leadership with a Democrat-controlled military, and then it would have to be probably a far-right uprising that would do it at this stage, like soon, not like with more Marxist education and a worker revolution or whatever the fact. I think that would be the most likely scenario that would occur if it was going to happen, and that it would have to be the Democrat-led leadership with the military, because it's got to be the power structure versus an oppositional group, and it's not going to be the reverse. The Democrats aren't going to form a militia to take on the Donald Trump government. But the opposite would happen, I think, potentially, like could happen. And that's very, very interesting. And my partner was like, well, do you really think the military would not back the far right? Like, wouldn't they be part of the right-wingers rebelling against the government? And I was like, no, because I think there is a liberalism arc in the military. And we see especially that the Democratic Party, when we talked about the Hellcats, if you were on that stream, we talked about how the Democratic Party is increasingly representing themselves as the pro-military party. They're the pro-veteran party, right? They have this almost old-school, antiquated respect for the military and the service people. And I think there are a lot of people who believe in this liberal brand of America, and they join the military, especially people from low-income areas, marginalized areas. They think there is glory in doing this army job, and a lot of people think it's their way out of their economic circumstances, right? And I think those people would back the United States. But I think, like, her point people said is that the U.S. military wouldn't turn on its own citizens, right? Somebody said she said that, and I don't believe that's true at all. Like, at all. I think the U.S. military is gonna go where they're pointed at the end of the day. So whoever's in charge of them, that's who they're gonna listen to, is my general take. Like, you know, I can't believe that if Donald Trump's in power, the military is not gonna listen to Donald Trump. Like, come on, like, what? But similarly, I think that if Kamala Harris was in power, the military would listen to Kamala Harris. Like, I really think that's how it would go down. You would have some people, maybe, who would be more far right, but I don't see that happening. She believes the military would not turn on us. I do not believe that in a second. I have no reason to believe that. I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Military routinely declines illegal orders. That's interesting. But I think when you change what's legal, it doesn't matter, you know? I think the military here is very far right. I do want to say the military here is very, very far right. They are. They are very far right. But my general impression is that it's not about the Constitution, but I think it is show up and follow orders, right? And so whoever's in charge, that's whose orders you follow. That's my impression of it. Anyway, the military has turned on us with ICE. Yeah, I mean, like, the police here, they work with ICE, right? They here where I live in Los Angeles, and that's a very progressive liberal place. Karen Bass is a Democrat mayor of Los Angeles. She has ordered the police to go violently attack protesters in Los Angeles. That's a Democrat doing that. They're listening. They're doing it. They're helping ICE, even though legally they're not supposed to. So I think that's more the power structure. It's the chain of command. Whatever the person at top is telling them to do is what they're going to do. Has the military literally bombed striking workers? I'm not sure about that, but I wouldn't put that past them. I know that the military has been called into squash strikes and has shot striking workers, like in the 1800s and early 1900s. So it's very, very interesting. Yeah, my guess would just be, though, that the military would support whoever's in power. So that's why I'm like, the only way like a civil conflict would happen is if the Democrats are in charge of the military, because otherwise the Democrats don't have an opportunity to have an armed militarized force. That's the closest they're going to get to it to even be a counterbalance to a conflict from the far right. But some military would obviously be the far right. But I think more than that, they would just follow orders, and the Democrats aren't going to give nice orders, right? The Democrats are fucking psychopaths with a gun, too. And that's what people don't realize. Lord Oxium, ex-cult members have really hard times undoing the damage done to them. They often go from one cult to another, which makes sense. That's what's normal to your brain. So her takes make sense to me. Unfortunately, other people online do not have critical thinking to parse out her bias and worldview. Interesting. Philly was the bomb. Yeah, that was Philadelphia. They weren't striking workers, though. They were just black anarchists, basically. The move bombings, right? Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, not even considering how, our military our police officers are getting trained by the IDF. Yeah, exactly. So I see ICE and I see the police as a microcosm of the military. I see all the armed forces increasingly merging, the increased militarization of the police, of ICE, etc. Oh, Philly was cops and the move bombings, right? Yeah, that was that. And based on what I've seen, being at actions, being at protests, they follow whoever's in charge. So whoever's in charge, they're doing it. So if it's Donald Trump, they're going to do what he says. If it's Kamala Harris, they're going to do what she says. That's my guess. Fun in America. Do not resuscitate 999. Thanks. Yay. Posture check. Very, very interesting. Thanks for letting me watch that person. I've never seen it before. All right, I'm going to take a bathroom break, and I'll be back in 5, and we'll pick up with more of this. Okay, hi, I'm back. Sorry. All right. So we've got some more stuff up about Donald Trump versus Europe. Here's the story about the Danish flags. Do you guys remember that? This, I think, is interesting. First time chat, Dan Flyer. I think it's more a matter of whether the military could operate the way they're ordered, which could be to enforce law on U.S. soil by bypassing local and federal authorities, which I don't think is possible with the consent of a large group base within the population. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they will just point. They will just shoot where where somebody points. Where somebody's like, shoot. They're like, okay. Well, I don't think they're thinking about it. I think they're trained for that, right? I think they're trained to follow orders. So if they're higher ups or like we're not following those orders, that's a different story. But I think that in the field, in the moment, that's not usually how it goes down. Right. So I don't know. Very interesting. Imagine climbing into a completely bedazzled tank and the inside is also completely bedazzled. Virgo. I want that life. When I was a teenager, I thought, this is how I should have known I wasn't an anarchist. Okay, when I was a teenager, I had the idea that I did want a government, and the government should issue weapons, but the weapons should be pink and glittery, and only girls and gay people were allowed to have them. So straight men weren't allowed. But if you were a girl and you were gay, you could have as many weapons as you want, and they would all be pink and glittery. This was one of my teenage thoughts about arming the proletariat. Very gender-based. Not exactly the approach I would take today, necessarily, but I think there was something there in teenage Madeline's mind. They were saying I would arm the men today, too. I've grown. I've evolved. But I think I just like the idea of owning a glittery pink gun. Okay. So this is the article on the U.S. military bombing striking workers in the Battle of Blair Mountain. I opened it, but let's look at it really fast while we have it on our minds. The U.S. Army once deployed bombers, and yes, okay, so I didn't hear about this with the bombers. I was thinking of them shooting striking workers, but I've never heard about the bombs, to crush 10,000 armed coal miners in West Virginia. No, I don't want to do this. But 10,000 armed coal miners held Blair Mountain in late August 1921. They faced machine gun nests, private planes dropping bombs, and a growing force of deputies backed by local coal company. Very, very fascinating. Yeah, we do have this history of, that's like fascism, right? The government sending in the military to make you go back to work. That's fascism. That is fascism. So it's very, very interesting. So also, though, when liberals are like, it's never been this bad, I'm like, girl, like, do you know history? Like, what do you think we've done? Very, very fascinating. So, all right. So Donald Trump apparently talked some shit about Danish people in NATO. And was like, I didn't do so much. And then the U.S. Embassy then Danish people in Denmark at the U.S. Embassy put up 44 Danish flags to honor the soldiers killed in Afghanistan here that were Danish. And then the United States Embassy was like, girl, fuck you, and took them out. And we were like, we don't care about your dead. So we're having like a weird dead Danish people off, I guess. Inversions. Your partner's been joking about getting a firearm, specifically lime green Glock. Is it brat? Is it brat? The Glock is brat. Brat was really a cultural moment for us as a people. Now that I'm thinking about that, that really hit hard. Interesting. Okay, so we're fighting about dead Danish people. Brat, the gun range. You have to say it like that. Brat. I mean, at the time it was happening, I was like, this is completely devoid of culture. This is so depressing. What is the state of the United States? What is the state of the world? But then I started ironically calling everything brat. And then I think I just adopted it. I think it became real. You know, when you start to do things as a joke and then it becomes too real. And I think I did, unfortunately, have fun with it. I think I do remember having fun with it. I'm the problem. You die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I became the villain of Brat. Brat. That's Brat. You have to say it like that, by the way, or it doesn't count. Brat. So I got a little into it. Old lady yells at Brat. It's like saying Hella. Yeah, that happened to me with Hella too. Brat. Yeah. So that's what's going on. Hella Brat. It's so bad. Yeah, you're from NorCal. It's not in your choice. It's in your DNA. Yeah, I had a partner from Vacaville who said Hella. And I was like, oh yeah, is that Hella? Is that Hella good? Is that Hella cool? Is that Hella this? Is that Hella that? Is that Hella that? And then the second it slipped organically from my lips, you should have seen the sheer glee on this man's face. It's a man. And he was just like, and I was like, no, it's happened. Yeah, Vacaville, Cowopolis. China is West Taiwan. You know what? I would almost respect the PSYOP more if they were literally just trying to claim, like Chiang Kai-shek did, that the government of Taiwan was the rightful government of all of China. I would respect that more. They can't even get the history of it right. Like, they're just off in some totally new dimension. I would respect China is West Taiwan way more. That would be interesting. Okay. So over here, following up with the United States and Europe breaking up, it's not like the SS are coming. Italy bids to quell ice furor before Winter Olympics. Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani insists that the U.S. agents are not going to be those that are on the street in Minneapolis. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's government scrambled to contain the fallout Tuesday after ICE confirmed its agents would assist with security at next month's Winter Olympics in Italy. Opposition parties reacted with fury after it emerged that the agency, which had been engulfed in controversy after deportation agents killed 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis in recent weeks, would be involved in security operations for the Games due to begin on February 6th. Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said Tuesday that it was not going to be those that are on the street in Minneapolis. Does that matter? Okay. He added, I've been harder than anyone else in Italy on the ice raids, but it's not like the SS are coming, in reference to the notorious Nazi paramilitary. What do the ice raids have to do with Italy? This is what I don't understand. Why is this happening? How does this even work? I guess you're like, are you as a country allowed to send your own militia in to accompany your Olympic athletes? I can't figure it out either. We got to research this. Why is ICE going to Italy? I want to know why. Okay, maybe this will tell us. I'm trying to see. Okay, it's common for the Department of Homeland Security and domestic law enforcement agencies to provide security support at major international events. Why? Gets weird. I didn't know that. DHS stressed, also DHS, that's where Aspen comes from, by the way. That's what birthed Aspen, Genocide Apologia Barbie on the internet over here. That people are like, I know about the world. Ha ha. From this fucking shit. These people don't understand. DHS stressed that all security operations at the Olympics are directed and managed exclusively by Italian authorities. So why are we going? I don't fully understand. So the U.S. Embassy sources in Rome explained to Italian media that various federal agencies had worked at previous games in the past, although it was not clear if ICE itself had taken part. Probably not. U.S. officials said that the role of Homeland Security investigations, which is part of ICE, would be strictly supportive, working with the Diplomatic Security Service and Italian authorities to vet and mitigate risks from transnational criminal organizations. It would obviously not conduct immigration enforcement operations outside the U.S. How would they even do that? Homeland Security Department spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin told the BBC. Antonio Tajani told reporters that the ICE agents who are coming were not those with machine guns and their faces covered. They're coming because it's the department responsible for counterterrorism. Vance is also there. They're his personal security. Oh, interesting. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. An ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good, obviously, in the aftermath of Alex Petty being shot. The Rai TV report showed one agent warned if the crew kept filming the agents, their car window would be smashed. I mean, this is the nature of the training going on over there, though. They're just like, do whatever the fuck you want, go off, blah, right? So, I don't know. I'm hard pressed to believe this won't spark some sort of diplomatic incident even further when they're there. And actually, my partner told me this story. Let me look this up. Let me look this up really fast. Okay, yeah, and this is reminding me of this situation. These people are not very well versed on international protocol, obviously. Ecuador says ICE agent tried to enter consulate in Minneapolis. And I don't know if you guys saw this. I haven't seen it, but my partner was telling me about this. Basically, an immigrant ran into the consulate for protection, and then an ICE agent tried to chase them in, and the embassy had to be like, you can't come in here. And the ICE agent was like, oh yeah, if you touch me, I will grab you, know that, okay, blah, 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 blah. And the ICE agent was like, I'm coming in. And they were like, you don't understand, this is foreign soil. We are not United States. Like, our embassy is foreign soil. If you do this, you are basically declaring war with Ecuador. And then I guess they left. So very, very interesting. Very, very fascinating. This whole thing, I'm like, I can't imagine that this is gonna do it for the Gramsci. Stop. So Italy, I'm not saying anything, but eggplant parmigiana. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. You got it. You got it. Do it for the Gramsci. Eggplant parmigiana for the Gramsci. Okay. Let's take a look. Oh, the Irish thing. I think I opened this. I opened it. Yes. I opened it twice, actually. We're going to look at that, too. Don't worry. I pulled it open. Is there links between Epstein and regime change operations in Iran? I actually have a document. Yes, I do have a document. I'll show you. Hold on. I'll send it. I'll send it. We'll do it right now. And this ties into North Korea fucking too. Jesus Christ. I still feel bad about yelling at that person earlier. I'm so embarrassed for my patience is really getting thinner. I've noticed that. I'm so embarrassed for people. It's embarrassing listening to people. It's infuriating. I really don't. I think it's getting bad. Okay. So downloads desktop. Got some shipping labels to print today for work. Okay. Let me show you guys these things I screenshot on my phone from the Epstein files. So we've got two things. So this is from 2017. For your dinner tonight, there are no boundaries that Trump will not cross. It's that simple. Recess appointments, firing sessions, Iran, North Korea, State Department, all open for change. So the fact that this says all open for change makes it sound like Donald Trump was talking about regime change in Iran and North Korea with a foreign ambassador. I think this guy's from Finland, maybe? More of some Nordic location. So that is something concerning, right? I know, patience is so important. It's so important. I'm losing it. I'm really worried. I need to get better. And I'm good when people don't know and they're genuinely curious. But I really think that Americans only respond to humiliation. I really think it's social pressure and shame and humiliation, and I hate that. Norway. That's what I thought. Okay. And then here we go. David Stern wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. My senior Chinese friends tell me the top gave Trump the go-ahead to take on North Korea. No idea if it's real. So that's another reference to Donald Trump wanting to do regime change in North Korea, which is interesting. And I'm sure China was just like, we're not going to do anything, which is true. China's very isolationist in that way, or very pacifist, I guess. Virgo, my resolution last year was to be more convincing and less combative, and it helped me a lot with communicating in general. Okay, so I think that had been my approach for so long, and I was so frustrated that it stopped working. Like that. I'm not going to lie to you guys, the Aspen thing really broke something in me. Because looking at the way that woman put together a video and misrepresents everything, I'm like, anybody with half a brain cell can tell this isn't real, right? And people didn't. And the thing that they liked about her videos is that she was mean, she was bitchy, she was combative. And I think that's really what people respond to. People have been so reality TV pilled. I think on the internet, not in your personal life. Don't feel like that with people in your personal life. But on the internet, and it really was depressing and upsetting to me. You know, that's what people like. They want the reality TV experience. And that's very frustrating. So, okay, so we got the ICE agents showing up at the Olympics. Maloney has already faced criticism for her defense of U.S. President Donald Trump following his threats to annex Greenland. The government is a joke and completely subservient to those like Trump who every day insult us, threaten world peace, and justify inhuman and heinous acts such as those committed by ICE, said Riccardo Ricciardi. The Italian are just named things like this. Riccardo Ricciardi. An MP for the opposition Five-Star Movement. Alessandro Zan, a member of the European Parliament for the center-left Democratic Party, condemned it as unacceptable. In Italy, we don't want those who trample on human rights and act outside of any democratic control, he wrote on X. If the Italian government needs ICE's help, it means not only that it has failed on security, but that it has embraced a dangerous shift, said Maria Chiara Gatta, an MP from the centrist Italia Viva party. That's true. Local leaders also joined in. Giuseppe Sala, the left-wing mayor of Milan, which is hosting several Olympic events, told some radio station that ICE was not welcome. This is a militia that kills. They are not welcome in Milan. There's no doubt about it, he said, adding, can't we just say no to Trump for once? Public pressure has also grown. Two petitions Tuesday had gathered more than 50,000 signatures calling on the government to block ICE's entry and operations in Italy. Malrish, you're correct. When people are sending me Aspen videos, they aren't doing it because they want rebuttal. They want interpersonality drama. And that's what I'm bad at. That's what I don't... that's what I'm bad at. I'm not, good at content creation like that, And I don't, see the use or utility in it, and that makes it harder for me to engage with it. I don't really know how. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't showing you. Yeah. So, yeah, this is that story. Okay, now, going back to some of the things we were talking about in the chat. Absolute hell. Irishman with valid U.S. work permit held by ICE since September. And this was in February? He's been held for 5 months? Yo, this is crazy. An Irishman living in the United States for more than 20 years has been held by ICE officials since being arrested last September. Originally from Glenmore, Kilkenny, Seamus Culleton is married to a U.S. citizen and owns a plastering business in the Boston area. He arrived on September 9th, 2025, and has been in an ICE detention facility in Texas for nearly 5 months, despite not having any criminal record, not even a parking ticket. In a phone interview from the facility, he said the conditions there are like a concentration camp, absolute hell. County Kilkenny. Thank you, Marish. Culleton said he was carrying a Massachusetts driver's license and a valid work permit issued by the U.S. government when he was pulled over by ICE on the way home from work in September. His work permit was issued as part of an application for a green card, which he initiated in April 2025. He has a final interview remaining. After his arrest, Culleton was allowed a brief phone call to his American wife, Tiffany Smith. She said she broke down and cried. To know he was just taken, that he or I had no idea where they were taking him. It was traumatizing. For 5 days, Culleton was held in a small cell overflowing with other detainees and flown to a Buffalo, New York ICE facility. So, also this is wild because Republicans are trying to pretend still that they're the party of austerity and a balanced budget and all this shit. And it's like, why are you spending all these resources to fly an Irish dude from fucking Texas to Buffalo, New York, who's one interview away from getting his green card? That's fucking insane. In Buffalo, he was interviewed by an ICE agent who asked if he would sign a form agreeing to his deportation. Culleton said he refused and instead ticked a box where detainees can state they wish to contest their arrest. He wrote down that his grounds for contesting were that he was married to a U.S. citizen and had a valid work permit. He was then flown to the ICE facility in El Paso, Texas. We're fucking sending this guy all around the United States. And he's been locked in the same large, cold, and damp room for 4.5 months with more than 70 men. He said detainees are constantly hungry because meals served at tables in the center of the room offer only child-sized portions. Fights often break out over food, even over those little child-sized juice containers, and toilets are filthy. He said there's little to do but lie on bed all day. Most detainees do not speak English. He said he's been allowed outside for air and exercise fewer than a dozen times in nearly 5 months. The atmosphere is full of anxiety and depression, he said. At a November bond hearing, a judge approved his release on a $4,000 bond, which his wife paid. When nothing further happened towards his release, they learned the U.S. government had denied the bond, initially without explanation. This is unusual, as is the length of time Culleton has been held. According to a recent New York Times article, U.S. courts are being deluged with ICE detainees' bond hearings, as federal judges have found that the Trump administration has been ignoring longstanding legal interpretations that mandate the release of many people who are taken into immigration custody if they post a bond. Most applicants are now being released on bond. Culleton's attorney, Ogor Winnie Okoye of BOS Legal Group in Massachusetts, then appealed the case to a federal court where 2 ICE agents claimed that in Buffalo, Culleton had signed several documents agreeing to be deported. Table in the middle. Like, probably big room, and they have a table in the middle, and they just put kids' stuff on it. Did he mention that they killed detainees? Bonk-a-bonk. Malrish, you moved to the United States, got married, divorced after a year, and got your citizenship 10 years later. I mean, it's crazy. And this isn't to say, again, like, under Obama, shit like this was happening, and people were being held without due process. But I think the joint incarceration for this long is new. The flying people around like that is new. Losing people is new. These kinds of things. I mean, people did get lost, I guess, under Obama. He also said most of the guards are Hispanic. Interesting. Yeah, in his interview, he said that they killed detainees, but it's not mentioned in this article. Interesting. That's really interesting. Although the judge noted numerous irregularities on ICE's court documents, she ultimately sided with the agency. Wow. He says the signatures are not his. Under U.S. law, Culleton cannot appeal, though he would like the signatures to be examined by handwriting experts and believes a video of his interview with ICE in Buffalo would prove he refused to sign any deportation documents. He has no idea what will happen now and says the waiting is psychological torture. He says facilities officials tried to get him to sign a deportation order last week, but he refused. You have one section of the government trying to deport me and another trying to give me a green card, he said. Okoye said Culleton's case is very unusual and that before the current Trump administration, a person in his situation with a valid green card application made on the basis of marriage to a U.S. citizen would not have been detained and would almost certainly be granted residency and employment permissions applied for. She said Culleton was picked on a random sweep for immigrants and continues to be held without charging documents, adding that the U.S. government has acted in an inept and capricious manner. In such a case as this, the government has a discretionary option to simply release him, but inexplicably has not done so. Here's a gentleman who's a model immigrant. He owned a successful business. He's married to a U.S. citizen and is properly going through the green card legal process, she said. It makes little sense that he would have agreed to be deported. Colichin's wife, Tiffany, says she has endured 5 months of heartbreak, stress, anxiety, and anger. I would never wish this on anyone or their family. I'm still praying for a miracle every day. Very, very, very sad. Oh, Seamus is his name probably, huh? Welcome back. Yeah, it's made clear at every stage of the process your fate is at the whim of the next person you speak to. Yeah, I've talked about this before. Somebody I know who was in prison around 2010 as an undocumented immigrant. And when they were released from prison, the prison realized they were undocumented, and one of the prison guards was temporarily ordained to oversee an impromptu immigration case. So a random prison guard got to decide if he stayed in the United States or not, which is crazy. Absolutely wild. We're talking about ICE because we were talking about Europe versus the United States and rising tensions. We're talking about ICE being in Italy and deporting European citizens. So, yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. So, yeah, the analysis of this is very interesting. I think that, there was the thing that I recommended everybody watch before. I'm going to pull it up again just in case it's useful for people, where Jeffrey Sachs was talking about the EU versus the United States and how the United States was not a trustworthy ally. And he also talks a lot about the psychology of the United States government and how it works. And I think it is really, really interesting. Maybe we'll take a second to watch a little bit more of that. Did the article explain why ICE was let in Italy? Because I guess Department of Homeland Security has always accompanied Americans to the events. So this year they're sending ICE specifically. Your friend's dad died in ICE custody. That's so scary. That's horrible. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Awful. These people are disgusting. So, all right, I'm going to pull up this video and maybe we can just hop around and watch a little bit of it. It's really, really long, so maybe we'll just choose a random place to start watching from because I feel like there'll be stuff that's relevant to us here. If you guys remember this video we talked about, and this is Jeffrey Sachs, who previously had worked with the UN and the United States government, talking to the EU back a while ago, though. Actually, this is, what's the date on this? 11 months ago. So kind of as a premonition of everything that's about to come. And let's take a look. And I'm just going to kind of skip ahead to a certain section. And we'll just watch from there for a few minutes together, if that's okay. Because everything he says is really interesting. And it's kind of like a precursor, and you guys can watch on your own if you want. You saved this one to watch the last stream? Good. I think it's good. So, I don't know. We'll just skip ahead. I'm starting in a random place.
It wants without any neighbor having any theory, if you know formal game theory. That's what they, as usual, playing completely useless subsidiary role, even though it was a guarantor of the agreement. Trump, one, raised the armaments. There were many thousands of deaths in the shelling by Ukraine in the Donbass. There was no Minsk II agreement. And then Biden came into office. And again, I know all these people. I used to be a member of the Democratic Party. I now am strictly sworn to be a member of no party because both are the same anyway. And because this is, the Democrats became complete warmongers over time, and there was not one voice about peace, just like most of your parliamentarians, the same way. So at the end of 1991, Putin put on the table a last effort in two security agreement drafts, one with Europe and one with the United States. The U.S. put on the table December 15th, 2021. I had an hour call with Jake Sullivan in the White House begging, Jake, avoid the war. You can avoid the war. All you have to do is say NATO will not enlarge to Ukraine. And he said to me, Oh, NATO's not going to enlarge to Ukraine. Don't worry about it. I said, Jake, say it publicly. No, we can't say it publicly. Say, Jake, you're going to have a war over something that isn't even going to happen? He said, don't worry, Jeff, there will be no war. These are not very bright people. I'm telling you, if I can give you my honest view, they're not very bright people. And I've dealt with them for more than 40 years. They talk to themselves. They don't talk to anybody else. They play game theory. In non-cooperative game theory, you don't talk to the other side. You just make your strategy. This is the essence of game theory.
Hi, welcome Raiders. Hello. We've been talking about the EU breaking up with the United States. The girls are fighting. And I pulled up this video from 11 months ago, which is Jeffrey Sachs, who's worked with the UN and with the United States before, giving a speech at the EU Parliament, basically warning them against allying with the United States and saying the United States would throw them under the bus. So the thing I liked about this is he's talking about game theory. And what he's saying is the problem with the United States is you can't negotiate with them. You cannot negotiate them. The United States will not negotiate with people. And he's talking about it obviously in the context of Ukraine and Russia. But that is important because what most Americans don't know is that with the conflict with NATO over Ukraine, Russia tried to negotiate with the United States a number of times, like on multiple occasions. The United States was like, no, we don't negotiate with people, right? Does this brain dead approach to game theory explain why Biden never once spoke to Russia? Yes, exactly. Yes, that is literally it. And when Jeffrey Sachs is like, the United States is just not that smart. Like, we're a bunch of, like, cowboy idiots running around going bang, bang in the sky without a plan. That's exactly what it is. So all of this stuff with Donald Trump now having weird relations with the EU, you know, and the EU being like, oh, offended, like, Europe's offended. It's not like this is a well thought out plan either, which is the important thing to know. It's just what feels right in the moment, and we don't give a fuck. And I think that's, like, important to remember. And I really do recommend watching this. I'll give you guys a tiny URL for it again, because I think it is very illuminating. And when I say it, my impression of this guy is that now he's just old and he doesn't give a fuck and he's over it all. But this was not a man whose politics aligned with mine, certainly, right? This is a man who encouraged Gorbachev to do shock therapy and destroy the USSR and turn it into a capitalist hellscape. So it appears that as he's gotten older, he has become increasingly more and more disillusioned with the Western world. And as somebody said, he's an unaffiliated neoliberal now. He is. He truly is. He's still into neoliberal capitalism very, very clearly. But I think he has this like old school idea that neoliberalism can be saved and maybe the EU can do it, which is very, very interesting. So it's not a perspective ultimately that aligns with my politics. But I think it is an interesting perspective that can tell us a lot about the way the EU and the United States are engaging with each other. Very, very interesting. Decisions made by dudes that read a couple Kissinger books and then decided they're foreign policy experts. Exactly. Yeah. And this is what I always tell people too when they're like, well, I have a degree in poli-sci. I have a degree in economics. And I'm like, yeah, well, the Chicago boys had fucking degrees in economics. It didn't stop them from destroying Chile. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Kissinger objectively did so much harm for the world. And he was considered like a Playboy celebrity, right? These people don't actually have as much expertise as they profess to have. These are made-up imaginary expertise kind of things. They're made-up imaginary schools of thought that are just designed to uphold the myth, the legacy of American capitalism. You know? Yeah, his whole thing is, I'm not wrong, but we're doing neoliberalism wrong. Yes. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But again, I think he does give a lot of insights into how the U.S. government functions that I think are accurate and interesting. And when he talks about Russia and Ukraine, it's like, this is stuff that objectively everybody should know and hear about. And it does affect the United States and our relationship with Europe. Because the whole promise, and why Ukraine is kind of like a microcosm for how American Europe is, or how European America is because the whole idea is that we were courting Ukraine to join this Western world, right? We were courting Ukraine to join maybe the EU, maybe NATO, become allied with the United States. We see now Donald Trump's like, fuck your Danish NATO soldiers. I don't give a fuck. Fuck NATO. Who cares? Like, he literally does not give a fuck about NATO. But this is a promise made to Ukraine. because it was strategically advantageous to us in our plotting for business opportunities in Ukraine, right? So it doesn't actually matter. We don't actually care about these things. But the promise of Europe, the idea of the Western world, is like a mythology that is able to be strategically employed by the United States in order to convince people to do what we want, right? There's this grandiosity to the idea. And we find that this is also what we did similarly with our propaganda networks, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, when the USSR existed. We sold people on the myth of neoliberal capitalism. We told them that if you joined the West, if you joined us, if you joined Europe, if you joined the United States, your life is going to be so much better. You're going to have access to so many great things. Over here, we've got rock and roll blue jeans, babe. Come join us. And that's the same thing we did to Ukraine. Come join us. Come join Europe. Come join the United States. We have rock and roll and blue jeans. Come to find out, Donald Trump doesn't even actually view it as the United States and Europe. He's like, well, really, it's us, and we take whatever the fuck we want. And I think that it's surprising that Europe didn't know that was how Americans perceived them. Right? You know, but it is interesting watching them come to terms with it now. Yeah, come to the dark side. And Hungary was like, bet. Hungary was like, yeah. And then stood there in a courtyard going, we did the revolution. Where are the American tanks? And the United States was like, oh, we didn't mean like literally. We didn't mean we were literally going to help you. Like, what? Very, very weird. But that's the promise we gave people. If you eschew communism, you will join the civilized European, American, Western world. Ukraine, if you stop allying yourself and aligning yourself with Russia, which hasn't been Marxist since 1991, sure, but is still psychologically aligned with communism in our mind. There's something there. Their second largest political party is Marxist. If you turn your back on them and you come join the civilized Western world, you will get to experience civilization. And what we're offering is civilization, or our idea of it, right? And so I think that's really interesting. So to have an uncivilized development within the so-called civilized world, aka just a bunch of white people, I think is really shocking because it's breaking through this myth. The myth of what it means to be the West, right? Aw. I can be meaner to trolls. Thank you. Bye, Virgo. Bye, bye, bye. Yeah, I was really mean to some trolls earlier, Raiders. You missed it. I yelled at them. I yelled at one. I yelled at a troll. They were trying to argue about geopolitics, and they're like, I don't know, I just saw 2 TikTokers prove you wrong. And I was like, oh my God, we're in hell. We're in hell. No, I didn't pin it yet. I need to, oh no, I typed it, but I didn't pin it. I'll type it again. I'll type it a pin and I'll pin it, okay? SYNDBXB. Okay, so here is the link to the YouTube video. Again, not a communist. I'm not sending you to a Marxist. This is not an ally. This is an interesting perspective in terms of realpolitik, though. Right? So that's what I think you should take from this. Do I think if Republicans were in power when the Ukraine-Russia war started, that the Democrats would have a different view on who should be helping? Like if the Republicans tried to help Ukraine. So, basically, this has been a bipartisan issue from the jump. So no. One of the early ties to business opportunities in Ukraine that was being explored by the United States was literally from the Biden family with natural gas companies there, like the Hunter Biden thing. So when Donald Trump first called Zelensky and was like, hey, I'm in office now, I'll help fund your military stuff, one of the requests he made was that you turn over information about my political rival, Joe Biden's son, who's been involved in Ukraine. So actually, originally, the Democrats were more in support of Ukraine because they had more out in the open and already in existence and in the works business dealings with them. Yeah, Obama's administration was stoking the Nazis in 2010s. I mean, and of course, George Bush's administration in 2004 was dealing with the Orange Revolution. So it's been a bipartisan issue from the jump, which I think is really interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That's about it. So I got a few minutes left. Do you guys have any questions? Do you want to do any freeform talk about anything we've talked about today? Any other questions? Political rivals and now mineral rights for exploitation will help you, but it'll cost you all the ways you can make money independently. Exactly, feminist critique, first time chat. Okay, you have some real questions about Amnesty International that are completely off topic. Could I convince you to do some stuff about Amnesty International as a source on Theory Thursday? Yes, we could also talk about Amnesty International right now if we wanted, but I would just kind of give an overview of the sourcing that they use and how it's not reliable. So it's up to you, and it would be basically about North Korea because I have that stuff handy. But if you wanted, we could do something more in depth together on Thursday. Thoughts on drinking water? Fuck, I hate it. It's horrible. This necklace is my design for Tunnel Vision. That's my day job. That's my store, shop Tunnel Vision. So I make stainless steel jewelry and some clothes. And yeah, you can go shoptunnelvision.com and I sell them. Favorite form of direct action or mutual aid? Okay, well, I used to just give everything I had away. And then all my friends were like, holy shit, you ruined your life because you gave away your entire savings, your 401k, all of your book money. And now you're in debt from helping people. So you're not allowed to talk to people anymore because I apparently am just like, take it all. I don't care, whatever. So that was an issue in my life. So, in terms of what's like a responsible way to give, I honestly have not figured that out because I go overboard. I go too far. I go above and beyond, and I will literally drive myself into complete like negative funds to help people if I can. And that's just something about me. So that's something I actually struggle with. That's why I actually like being part of a socialist org, is that there's more structured opportunity and you know what to do to help make a difference and it's organized. Both of your parents worked in NATO and they believe the U.S. has been taken advantage of by Europe. That's really interesting for some communist trad wife. I could see why the United States thinks that and talks about that, right? Because we contribute way more to NATO financially. We do. Donald Trump is right that we carry the brunt of the financial obligation, right? But I think that the strategy for us is that NATO membership in the EU is strategically closer to our enemies. Just like we use Israel as a big military base. If you guys don't know why the United States is so obsessed with Israel, it's literally strategic location. We use them as a giant military base. That's it. It's nothing more complicated than that. Big military base. Convenient. I think that Europe similarly functions as big military base for us because we are relatively isolated on our continent. So I think that is one of the advantages. It's not monetary, but location. You know, that's the cost of location, and that can't be replaced. Thoughts on American military bases around the world as the American empire collapses. I think we'll hold on to them for as long as we possibly can. I think the United States is very into a show of force, right? And we'll continue that. The arrest of Elatico, youth activist in Cuba? No, I haven't seen this. I'll take a look at this. Let's see if this is... What is this? Independent Project... Uh-oh. This is what I'm seeing. U.S. State Department condemns the arrest of a Latico youth activist. This reminds me of the USAID efforts to destabilize Cuba that have been going on for years. Yeah, this feels NED. This feels CIA. This feels USAID. This is getting my spidey senses tingling. The U.S. State Department has spoken out against the arrest of Cuban youths Camille Zayas Perez and Ernesto Ricardo Medina, who are part of the audiovisual project Elatico. The illegitimate Cuban regime continues its daily acts of repression and abuse, stated the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs of the State Department on X. The dystopia is now. Why? Oh my God. What will happen to South Korea when the U.S. falls? I mean, I think South Korea is primed to just continue to be its own weird fucking little country the same way Taiwan is, honestly. Unless North Korea tries something. North Korea could opportunistically try something at that juncture to reunite. But North Korea recently, in their 2024 and 2025 constitutional revamps, no longer said that their primary goal with South Korea was reconciliation and unification. They're like, we now unfortunately have to accept that South Korea is a hostile entity trying to destroy us. And that comes after the former South Korean president was caught trying to provoke North Korea into warfare with them so he could have an excuse to declare martial law. So, yeah, I feel like maybe if it happened 5 years ago, right, North Korea might be like, okay, we're unifying, yay! But I don't even know that they would want that right now. Who knows? I know it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad for North Korea. So, let's see why they were detained. They arrested them for exposing the dictatorship's poor economic management. Oh, my God, this has U.S. PSYOP all over it. Elatico, an opposition platform originating in Colcoin, allows Medina and Zayas to challenge the authorities from a small room transformed into a studio, blending analysis and socio-political critiques of the Cuban reality. With thousands of followers online, Elatico stands as the most prominent alternative voices within Cuba. We gotta see if there's, like... They stopped posting the NED grants online, which is really, really, really annoying. But I wonder if they'll have anything. We can't search Ned Grants as easily as we used to. It's very, very sad. Easy search, not finding anything? No. We're gonna wait. We're gonna have to wait, and then we're gonna find out about this in like 20 years. That's what's gonna happen here. Ah! Oop, oop, oop. Wrong space, wrong space. Let's see. I bet it's USAID, though. USAID is usually who does shit in Cuba. Nope, nothing. We got nothing yet. We gotta wait. We gotta wait. Your kid brother's going to get shipped out as an MP to South Korea for his first stint after basic. I tried to talk him out of it. We live in rural-ass Alabama with no future prospects, most folks. And he already has some cognitive issues that impair getting and maintaining employment that is enjoyable. Ugh, that's so sad. It's really, really sad. I mean, it's very interesting because I would say he's not likely to see combat, probably, based on what's going on in current geopolitics. But the last president really shook things up when he did that thing where he tried to declare martial law and do a fake shutdown. The USAGM got funded a few weeks back with half their money, so the propaganda is going to be more obvious than usual. Malrish, thank you for the update. Oh, great. Oh, people are going to get even worse propaganda. Okay, all right. It's 11:30. I should probably hop off. Is there anybody online that we should raid before I go? Do another hydrate. Hegel's Big Dialecticals. We'll do a stretch too. Currently defunct. Yeah, it will be the State Department or Rubio. That's what I'm like, where is everything coming from right now? Everything's all weird and moved around. DJ Mule. Okay, we'll do that. Yeah, thank you guys for a fun raid, always. Or raid. Stream. I'm raiding DJ Mule. Well. Okay, I'm gonna try it. DJ U-E-L. Okay, I'm doing it. Jumel. I have 60 hires by the end of the day. Yes, tomorrow. We'll see everybody here tomorrow. We'll talk about the news again. I probably won't yell at anybody. Maybe. We'll see. Okay. Getting ready for the raid if I did it right. Eep. And then Thursday, we'll do Theory Thursday. Exciting. Okay. Bye, everybody.